This is our August 27th General Policy Committee meeting. A few issues on the agenda today, mainly dealing with how we serve our youth and some transitional employment issues, and then a sort of discussion about our budget before we go to our adoption readings in September. So with that, let me open up participants. With that, are there any questions, or is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Ward. Moved by Hey Santos. Madam Clerk, can we move to a vote on the adoption of the agenda?
I didn't move. I didn't say anything.
Oh, you didn't? Who was that? Oh, Commissioner Ariola moved. Okay, and Ward seconded. Sorry, I thought I saw the little yellow box around you. Okay, Madam Clerk, move to a vote.
Absolutely. Commissioner Hey Santos.
Aye.
Commissioner Ariola.
Aye.
Commissioner Sacco. Aye. Commissioner Ward.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons.
Aye.
And Mayor Poe.
Aye, that motion passes unanimously. Next item is approval of our minutes from the March 12th, wow, going way back, and the August 13th general policy meetings. Are there any corrections, additions, or is there a motion to approve the two sets of minutes?
Motion to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, moved by Ariola, seconded by Ward. Madam Clerk, we can move to a vote on that as well. That's procedural.
Commissioner Ariola.
Aye.
Commissioner Sacco.
Aye.
Commissioner Ward.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons.
Aye.
Commissioner Hey Santos.
Aye.
And Mayor Poe.
Aye, that motion passes unanimously as well. All right, Madam Clerk, our first order of business for discussion today.
Our first item is item 200212, Youth Development and Services.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Feldman, who do we have to introduce this for us?
Well, Mayor, Commissioners, I'm not really sure it's us as much as a discussion item. I did attach something that our Community and Engagement Office was working on. We never finalized it. I'm not sure I would tell you that at this point we would even recommend what I've put there, but I wanted to give you something to start looking at in terms of what youth engagement might look like. And my understanding of this topic for today was just to have a general discussion by the Mayor and Commission as to what you saw youth engagement potentially looking like, so that we could see where that fit within the organization and how.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Commissioner Ariola.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to start this by thanking the Commission for putting this on the agenda. This is a hugely important topic, which for years now, even before any commissioners on here were on the Commission, the City of Gainesville has taken our youth development and services very seriously. And for myself, the work that I have done on the Commission, I've really tried to focus on youth services. And what I came to realize, this actually came up from a conversation with our research team, that what we need in the City of Gainesville is a comprehensive youth development policy. And to me, what that means is, in the same way that we view having, I don't want to just a random example, the same way we want to have a master plan for this or a master plan for that. We need some type of a comprehensive policy that will guide our community and our government staff on how to look at youth development rather than just one program here, one service here, or trying to piece together and commissioners bringing one service or one program idea, but we have an overarching policy that looks at where the city interacts with youth and how we can look at not just providing services, but setting benchmarks for youth development and success, and then looking at our community partners and how we can engage them, using all of the different research that this community has done. I know that we've done a youth summit. I know that the University of Florida has had a wealth of information on this, the Boost Alliance and whatnot. So I came prepared with a motion and direction that I would like to give. And I would be happy to share my screen so that we can so that I can show exactly what I'm looking at. And I have some goals in mind that I think that we can start to frame a debate and discussion around. But the most important thing before I share this is that it isn't just enough to have a policy. We need to have, as the manager said, somewhere in the city where it's their responsibility. It's sort of in their house to make sure that this comprehensive policy is pursued aggressively and isn't just isn't just part of a larger department. And I'm not pretending to say how that organization should be set out. I want our staff to bring back by looking at where we're at right now. So I'm going to go ahead and close all of my tabs before I share my screen.
We're learning.
Yeah, little by little. Yeah. Okay, hold on. There we go. Boom. Have we got it?
Got it.
Okay, so this is sort of where I'm working from. What I would like is for staff to return with a draft framework, very broad language. I chose as broad as I could because I want us to start there and sort of go into the funnel, so to speak. But there's two specific directions I want us to give today. The first is for that draft framework to come back, but also to specifically return with the beginnings of a thinking of an organizational framework and our capacity. And I don't expect for us to be 10 steps down the line today or tomorrow with this organizational framework, but at least a pathway forwards for how we can get from where we are now to where we're going to be. And I think we're going to start by looking at, the kind of services we offer now, and then it's going to sort of snowball effect as we sort of look at, things like the Boost Alliance and out of school time and all of that. And then I have proposed goals here. These are by no means strict, and I didn't want to include them in the language of the motion because I want us to be able to talk about, which things are we going to prioritize? Because ultimately that will be a question that staff brings, which is, we have limited resources, or we got to start somewhere, right? So where will we start? And that's what I think we can sort of sift through later. So here's a couple of it. So, the reason why I chose education, economic opportunity and services, because I think that covers the broadest range. And then in the goals, I thought the first thing to put was a measurable decrease in youth unemployment. Our young people need jobs. They need to be working, and not just for the sake of having a job, but so that they can, begin to sort of set the foundations for the rest of their lives. We're going to need to assist our educational institutions and graduation rates. I think there's ample scientific evidence to show that there's direct correlation between academic success and school success with future success in life. Reduced youth incarceration and recidivism. I think that this also goes hand in hand with some of the direction that this commission has already given in some of those areas. I put lifting up of youth leadership because I think that oftentimes where governments and in my conversation with research staff, the city of Tallahassee sort of had a similar approach to a comprehensive look. It originally started from wanting to look at youth employment programs that the city of Tallahassee ran, but it's part of a larger program that the city of Tallahassee pursues, which is to look at how they can reduce incarceration and get more youth leadership involved. We're going to need to create benchmarks, and I certainly don't profess to be the academic expert on how to set those benchmarks, but I know that they're out there, and I'd like for our staff to pool those together. I know that Commissioner Johnson shared a research paper from the University of Florida that has all kinds of extensive information on achievement benchmarks and how you go about sort of getting the youth engaged. Number 6 is near and dear to my heart, ending childhood and youth homelessness, houselessness, however you wish to define it. I, for a number of years now, I've sat on the board of Family Promise, whose ambition is to end childhood and youth houselessness, because it is one of the most disruptive things that can happen to a young person's life. And we know that there's a whole myriad of reasons as to why someone might find themselves in that situation. And I think that we as a government, if we're going to commit to developing the youth, all youth in this city, this needs to be at the forefront of our approach. I mean, I listed just some of the partners that could assist with that. Concentrated multicultural and multiracial engagement, focusing on bringing together youth of all races and ethnicities. I think that this is extremely important for a whole number of reasons. Number one, it falls in line with our sort of equity initiatives to make sure that we're putting that at the forefront of everything that we do. And also, I grew up here and I went to Alachua County Public Schools, and really, you've got to be wearing some serious blinders growing up and going to Alachua County Public Schools to not be aware of the socioeconomic differences and racial differences in Alachua County. And I really want our youth to begin to sort of build in their own generation progress that we are trying to help them along with our government policies and whatnot. I put technical vocational opportunity expansion. I also want to include the arts in here. I think that there is, again, ample scientific evidence to show that these types of opportunities really expand not just critical thinking, but a whole host of other intangible skills, and in the case of vocational, tangible skills that young people can then use to build a foundation for the rest of their lives. Economic opportunity for youth. Again, economic opportunity is probably one of the most overused phrases, but I think it really is a catch-all. That includes jobs, that includes entrepreneurship, nonprofit leadership, things like that. And the last thing I put was childcare assistance and assisting young families with children, particularly now with the pandemic. This has been something that I think has been very critical. And I think if we are serious about helping the youth, we have to be serious about helping young families as well. So this is sort of the beginning. And there's so many people that can help with this. I'm I got to say, my confidence is extremely high for the success of a policy and a division of work in the city where it can be housed, because in my years on the city commission, I've not only seen commissioners push really hard for supporting our youth, I've seen our staff do it, I've seen our community do it. Our community deeply cares about developing our young people. I think that we just for whatever reason haven't had the sort of comprehensive approach that breaks down the silos and whatnot that ultimately we're going to need if we want to see success. So thank you all for sort of letting me go. I can keep this up or bring it down, whatever your wish is, Mr. Mayor, so we can all see each other's smiling faces as we debate this. But I think this is going to be integral going forward if we want to see the kind of success for the next generation that I know that we want to see. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. And why don't you take it down for now? And if anybody needs it, to pull it back up. All right, Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner Ariola, for bringing this forward to the commission. I think it's a great idea. I love it. I wanted to touch on some points and get your opinion on get some thoughts from you. You talked about we definitely want this to be a success for many, 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 many years. Have you considered creating a youth development subcommittee within this commission? That way you can have a more inclusive thoughts and just bring everybody into the table. Look at the multiracial and the engagement, just people from different backgrounds, instead of just, I like the direction of this. I think it's great, but to add more meat to the bones of this, look at doing a subcommittee, and that would be something I would be very interested sitting on. And if you want to, in my opinion, have this to be a success for longer periods of time, I think by having this subcommittee early on and engaging the community early on and bringing people to the table with different ideas and different concerns or not concerns, or just bringing everybody to the table and having them have an opportunity to discuss it and use this as a framework. And it's just something to think about, but I like the direction of it. And I think having that structure, having this as a structure and creating that subcommittee early on to give it some meat and just to have it sustainable long term.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had not considered that, but it sounds like it could be very useful for the reasons that you mentioned. I guess if you're asking me if I had a preference, what I would say is that if this commission is interested in going forward with a subcommittee, I would be open to that. Given a time frame and whatnot for it to accomplish its work. But I would also want for staff to give us a first flush as how we would begin organizationally, because what I have found is that oftentimes in the subcommittees, staff is sort of still trying to figure out who in their own shop is to address the subcommittee and what kinds of work that they do on the subcommittee. And that's my experience sitting on multiple subcommittees. And so what I'd like to do is, if we go that route, we start with, staff can have a strong footing for where they want to start, and then we can sort of leap off from there. So that's a good idea, Commissioner. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think you're absolutely right. Have a start and end date and just really have that flushed out up front. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. Commissioner Hayes Santos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Commissioner Ariola. I'm supportive of what you put forward. I think it's good and to the point, and I think the goals you have are goals that I'm supportive of as well. So I'm supportive of the motion whenever you put it on the floor. Thank you very much for your work on this and helping to shepherd it through.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner Ariola, for putting this together. There's a lot to chew on here, and as you rightly point out, some of it we're already working on. Some of it other parts of the community are working on, and might just need a little assistance from the city of Gainesville to be more successful. There's a huge amount of work to kind of hone this into some things that we could really accomplish over the next year or two or three. And I love Commissioner Simmons' idea of a subcommittee working on this for a defined period of time, to come back with, much like the rental subcommittee, rental housing subcommittee, come back with a set of very specific recommendations for how we can approach these. I love the ideas. It's hard to have much of a conversation really deeply about them today because it's brand new. But I would love for us to be able to think about some very specific pieces of this and how we might bring it forward. Not necessarily as a package, but one by one. In the old clumper and splitter mode, I find myself a splitter right now. I go back and forth on that, but at this point, I think there are things that are easier for us to do that are very impactful that we could bring forward faster than others. And I would hate to make the easy things wait for the hard things to get worked out at this point. But I think overall, I think it's a great idea, and I think the committee is the right road to go down. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Johnson.
Where am I? I'm unmuted. I am unmuted. Oh, hi. Thank you, Commissioner Ariola, for bringing this forward. It's really important work. I have, like I said, like you said, I sent out some information that the University of Florida came up with about kind of how to work with youth in our community. And something that I've heard back that I want to put out there to everyone, and something to consider is specifically how, we care in this community clearly about children. We pass the Children's Trust. We have the school board. We have different agencies working. We have the city, we have the school board, we have the Children's Trust, and we have Boost. And it feels like we need some type of interagency kind of support around that. So I'm wondering if you all would be open to something around that first, so that we are not necessarily going off in our own direction, creating something, but literally working. Because at this point, we've understood that equity is a community-wide issue. We understand that the children are a community-wide priority of ours. We have said to the school board, and the school board has said back to us, that we want everybody to read on a third grade level by the end of third grade. So to me, it seems like that would be an important step in this process, is to literally get everyone on the same page about what we're doing in the community. So then we can all be like literally rowing in the same direction. So I'm wondering, one, if you'd be open to that, two, what that might look like for us. But I think that that's really an important step, but that's not my idea. That's literally the idea of folks in the community that I've talked to about this before this meeting today. And folks that are going to be calling in are also going to mention a few other things. One is contributing to a countywide youth system of positive youth development, and also creating some type of venue for youth agency leadership with this, which is clearly in your proposal, Commissioner Ariola. And like I said earlier, creating and supporting a system-wide interagency cooperation. And also, this is important too, is inviting the community and researchers and practitioners who have specialized in this work, who have done this work, who care about this work, to provide input kind of before creating the policy or before creating the department. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially about getting everyone on the same page that's doing a lot of this work in the community already.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll get everyone else, and then we can allow Commissioner Ariel to respond to what he's heard. Commissioner Sacco?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I really like the idea that Commissioner Johnson put forward of some kind of interagency component, if only because there are multiple groups doing some aspect of this work. I do like the proposal put forward by Commissioner Ariola that some kind of board, committee, some kind of group does need to sit down and get together to talk about the policy as a whole. My one concern / request would be, and I think you intend this, it's just not spelled out, that when we define youth, that we include maybe ages 25 and under. In some conversations I've had in the community, a lot of the concerns haven't been for the 14 to 18-year-old. It's been for, my kid's 20 and they don't have directions because they no longer fit in with all of the youth programs that the city could offer, but they're definitely not ready for the adult programs that the city might offer. And they just feel kind of lost in between. So I don't know what the age range would be. I say under 25 because I still consider anyone under 25 to be a youth now in my old age. But I think we definitely need to think of youth as more than legal children, if only to make sure that they have that opportunity, that head start. And I think Commissioner Ariola, you meant that in your proposal when you talked about employment opportunities for our youth. But I just wanted it to be kind of explicit that when we talk about our youth, we're not excluding the recent graduate or someone who maybe isn't going off to college or Santa Fe or any other program that we have in our region, that they're going off, they don't know where, and that they need that extra assistance of figuring that out. Otherwise, I really, really do like the interagency program, and I don't know if that I don't know the mechanics of creating a board so that each of these agencies has a representative, like we do when we meet, for example, with, I think it's our new climate board has members from the city and the county. I don't know what the mechanics of building a board like that so that the school board has a representative, the city, the county, everyone has a representative. I don't know what would go into that, but I think that kind of falls in line with Commissioner Johnson's idea of something where all of the agencies that do this work get a representative. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. It's I love when this happens. Commissioner Johnson, I had written in my notes, start by asking other organizations what they see as the role of the city. And it's very close to what you were talking about, like finding out what everyone else is doing and then how the city sort of slots into that. You know, I think one question we need to ask ourselves, and we need to ask ourselves this repetitively as we move forward, is how does this fit into our strategic plan? Because we just went through an exhaustive, and I use that word quite literally, process to determine what are our top priorities and make sure that we're focusing our resources on those. And so, you know, I think one question we need to throw to our staff is, you know, how does this fit into the strategic plan that the City Commission has agreed upon? You know, make sure that it's congruous with that document that we have approved. I'm also curious how much of this would fall under our existing capacity versus what would be necessary to create from scratch, or, you know, what would we need to build out because we don't have the capacity to do whatever it is we're going to do now. So there's some very sort of direct suggestions in here that I think are completely within our purview and we should move forward with. For example, a youth council. I mean, we're a government. Creating a youth council to advise the government on youth issues, to me, is you know, very clearly would be a benefit to us and to the community, and also is not anything new. Many cities have youth councils, and there's lots of models from which to sort of pull and figure out what would work for us. You know, but right now, so here's where I am with and you know, there's nothing on that list that isn't important or wouldn't add. I don't know what the city's role in this is yet. So, you know, we have a children's trust, which was clearly created by our community to specifically address many of these issues, including coming with a funding source to do so. You know, when you talk about youth homelessness, we invest heavily in homelessness and homelessness prevention. So is it a matter of continuing to support those organizations that are doing that, or do we do something on our own? With things like VOTEC, again, you know, Santa Fe provides a significant amount of vocational training that they're quite frankly under capacity for. And so, you know, perhaps it's us trying to identify folks that would benefit from that and helping facilitate a transition into those programs. And then I know it's a priority of what will soon be the new school board. I know that member-elect McGraw had that was one of her main pillars of her campaign. And so I, you know, would imagine that's going to be a important topic of discussion very soon. So, you know, it's for a lot of this, I don't want to step in front of anyone, and I don't want to get out of, I don't want to try to do something that somebody else can do better because they already have the existing resources and expertise and have, you know, have built capacity. And so I'm not opposed to the subcommittee. I think it could be a great value, but it seems to me we're not there yet. What I can see helping this move forward is if we scheduled a workshop or perhaps a series of workshops where we invited different organizations and members from our community to have this discussion with us, and I'm not going to set the agenda today for what that might be, but for me, a big first question would be, what's already going on? That's a pretty easy question to answer. We've been having those. Boost sort of came out of all that, right? But then I would like to hear from all these different organizations, like all the member organizations that are part of Boost, from the school board, from folks like Youth Build and Bold and Reichert House. What role do they see the city playing in achieving these goals, and how can we support them in achieving it? And then if we go through all that and there are still things that we as a commission believe are important that aren't being addressed at all, we can work on figuring out, okay, how does that best get addressed, or do we take it on ourselves? But again, it's got to fit within our strategic plan that we've adopted, because that's where all our energy and resources are going to be directed. And if it slots well into that, fantastic. If not, we need to really consider whether, this is something that we dive headfirst into now, or do we start building up everything that we need as we go through our strat plan discussion, in a few months. So yeah, that's kind of where I am. But I think that for me, the way to really get the information we need to figure out where everything is right now, and then where we need to move to, is by having these workshops and getting everybody in the same, what I assume would be virtual room. And that will generate, I think, a path forward that gets us much closer to where we all, I think, want to be. So let me, before I go back to commissioners for a second time, see if Commissioner Ariola wants to respond to anything he's heard yet. And if not, then I can keep going. But I want to make sure that I am able to there's been some things asked specifically of you, so I want to make sure you have an opportunity to address those if you so choose at this time.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if I happen to not, I try to take as many notes as I could, just sort of wave at me and stuff. I heard everything that I heard, I find myself in complete agreement with. What I would like for us to do, and I'm going to start with your comments, Mr. Mayor, is for us to take stock of where we are right now, where we'd like to be. I think that going through this process, we're going to find out that first, there's different needs for different organizations from what they would need for the city. And I want us to be able to meet those needs as it fits into sort of our organizational structure. So we may be well set up through pre-existing programs and services to address certain needs with different organizations. And there may be some organizations where, we can't directly meet those needs yet. And as you said, Mr. Mayor, we may not even be the best positioned one, but for us to use our convening authority as the government, we can bring those stakeholders together so they can get connected, much in the same way that the Boost Alliance was formed, and the Children's Trust. And the Children's Trust is another great point to bring up for two reasons. Number one, because it is a funding source. And what I would like for the reason why I propose a policy is because, I want, rather than relying on individual commissioners year in and year out to sort of decide what kinds of services, we want to pursue, what kind of funding we want to pursue from the Children's Trust, we can have a policy that guidelines the types of funds that we pursue from the Children's Trust, either on behalf of the city or in some ways, letters of support that we can offer for other organizations who want to go after Children's Trust funding, so that we can assist them. Because as you said, we are not going to be the best positioned for every single one of these suggestions. And I don't anticipate that we should try to be everything to everyone. Another reason why the Children's Trust is great to bring up goes to the point that Commissioner Reynoso brought up, which is that the Children's Trust is from ages 0 to 18. And as we know, youth unemployment considers older than 18. And that funding source wouldn't be eligible for any kind of program that services anyone over the age of 18. So I think that that's fine. I mean, you know, we passed it and it's going to do amazing things for that age group. But I want us to start thinking, you know, beyond that. And Commissioner, it was intentional for me to leave off age ranges because for us to start at the beginning of the funnel, I didn't want to pigeonhole, you know, based on ages. You know, I certainly share your sentiments. I'll be turning 30 next year and I don't feel any younger. But of course, you know, there's exactly. I feel silly saying that. I feel totally silly saying that. So anyway, to just get back on track, you know, yes, I would absolutely want there to be a definition of youth and for us to understand that the needs of children 0 to 14, as you mentioned, is very different from the needs of young people who are graduating high school, whatever their level of graduation was. The interagency support component, I think that is a fantastic idea because, you know, at the end of the day, it can sort of do two things in my mind. An interagency support, either whether it's a position or a network, can sort of make sure that there's constantly new ideas being flown into the policy or into whatever area of the city is housing this, which is going to be necessary for there to be sort of community input constantly as the years go on with this. But also, it is something that, you know, many organizations have already been calling for. And so we fit that need. You know, you ask where can we be useful? What do they need from us? And that is something that they've stated that they need. And we can be the ones to step up to that plate. So I'm in full support of that. And it does need to be countywide. I'm a city commissioner, so I started with just my colleagues here. But it absolutely needs to be countywide because, you know, the youth, at least for me, I wasn't aware of the city limits when I was growing up going to school here. It wasn't until you know, later that I sort of realized that just over the bridge is not actually Gainesville proper. So that goes to the comment that Commissioner Ward made about low-hanging fruit. You know, to circle back to the comments from Commissioner Simmons, and to tie that in with what you said, Mr. Mayor, I think that there will be a point where we can have a working subcommittee. I think we can get to that point, but I do think that we need to really laser focus because, as you mentioned, we got to make sure that it's with our strategic plan. I want to get that back from our staff because I really want to see this take off. And I think that you know, once we get to the point where we have a framework. It's certainly not finalized. I'm not saying that we finalize the policy and finalize the organizational framework and then go to committee to sort of fill in the details. But we need to start somewhere. And I'm certainly not pretending that this Microsoft Word document that I whipped up is the guiding document by any means. We need to get to that point. So I don't know if I answered all of your questions. I tried to, but I appreciate the support that many commissioners voiced, and I hope that you know, we can sort of give some direction. In fact, I'd like to go ahead and do that right now by moving that we ask staff to return with a draft framework of a youth development policy to support and develop all youth in Gainesville by focusing on achievement benchmarks in education, economic opportunity, and services. Number 2, that we specifically return with an organizational framework where the administration of a youth development policy will be housed, including which charter and what duties. And then for us to, the third point, which is to sort of begin get some feedback from staff on what an interagency support component would look like. I'll leave it at that for now. I think 3 points is good, and then we can sort of work from there. And if any commissioners would like friendly amendments, I'm always open to them.
Okay, seconded by Hayes Santos. Thank you. Let me go to the city manager first, and then I'll go back to the commissioners. Manager Feldman.
Thank you. Just maybe if the commissioner could clarify which staff you're looking at, because candidly, we're going, as the mayor said, full bore on the top and high priorities. So if it's my staff, I'm going to have to figure out who and what we put to the side to do this, because I just don't want a motion and then it to fall by the wayside. If you all ask us to act on it, we're going to act on it. So I guess I'm just looking for some clarification.
General government staff, Mr. Manager.
So my staff, okay.
Okay, and I think there might be some interim things we can do before that gets identified, but I'll come back to that. Okay, Commissioner Ward. Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Ariola used the phrase convening authority, and I think that's the key to this. Much of what's on this list, and much of what's not on the list that affects young people in our community, really isn't the job of the city commission. And that's fine. That's cool. We should be active in poking and prodding and pulling along all those things because we have the opportunity. We have the bully pulpit. We are the convening authority. We can start those conversations. And I don't want to throw cold water on any ideas, but we don't have the budget to do everything, and we don't have the charge to do everything. Let's keep in mind that the county, by constitution, is supposed to do social services. School board is supposed to do education. And while we can call things out and get everybody to the table and identify things that are absolutely the responsibility of the city of Gainesville and that we ought to move forward with, and things that aren't being done, I want us to make sure that when we discover something that is another agency's lane, we prod them to get it done and offer our help, but we make sure that it stays in their lane and in their budget. That's the reality of the situation. The education belongs a couple of blocks down University Avenue, and social services, we have over the years picked up things like homelessness to be the responsibility of the city of Gainesville, when in fact they're the responsibility of the county. But once you pick them up, they're here for many commissions to come. Because we certainly can't and shouldn't at this point drop our commitment to homelessness in our community. But because that was picked up years before most of us were on this commission, we can't walk away from it now. It's ours, even though the Constitution doesn't say that it's ours. So as we do this, as we convene and list ideas and list organizations and what those organizations are doing and what they ought to be doing, we need to keep in mind that part of our responsibility is to put the pressure on those organizations that are supposed to be doing it to do their work. And not just to say, gosh, you're really not doing this work that you're funded to do. We'll take care of it for you. Because that's an easy path for us to go down. And we've done it. And I want to be very careful with doing that again. I don't think we should be afraid to say, partner organization, we see a need for this. How do we help hold you responsible for this? Instead of saying, I know you've got the money to do this, but we're going to do it anyway. Just to be entirely blunt, I don't want us to come out of this meeting with anybody thinking that we're going to pick up pieces that ought to be other governmental organizations' responsibility. But we absolutely have the convening authority and the bully pulpit to convene and to bring those folks together. And I've been sitting here thinking of all the various nonprofits that do some of this work and that don't know that other folks are doing the work. I mean, there's, for instance, we do the BOLD program. I'll bet you there are other organizations that are doing something kind of like that, but not exactly that, that could funnel together. We could help stitch those programs together in ways that make it more effective for the whole community. And that's something that's always been frustrating, is we see all these different government and non-government programs that help people, but they can't help people as well as they could if they all knew each other were there. And they honestly don't all know each other are there. And if they know they're there, they don't know what the other programs do very often. That's not to say there aren't very efficient programs out there that do coordinate this sort of thing, but more often than not, they don't coordinate. And if we could help do that, that would be an enormous move forward for young people in our community. So anyway, again, I really appreciate I'm going to vote for the motion, and I appreciate the document that you brought forth, Commissioner Ariola, and it's making me think in lots of different ways. So thank you.
That was the intention. Thank you.
Mr. Sims?
Thank you, Mayor. And I just want to say again, Commissioner Ariola, thank you so much for bringing this forward. You do not look a day over 40. Just wanted you to know that. Haven't seen you face to face in a while, but from where I'm looking, you don't look over 40. And I also agree with Commissioner Ward. If we're going to be the convening authority, I think this is a great platform to use that authority and make sure that the nonprofits, for-profits, all these organizations that are doing their respective things, that we all get together and figure out what's the best route to take and utilize that information and make it better for our youth in our community. But understanding that, again, we do not want to step on anybody's toes that are doing what they're supposed to be doing. We should be a place where we're supportive. So thank you for bringing this again, and I will be voting for it. And whenever you decide to create this youth subcommittee, count me in. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson?
Thanks, Mayor. So I had some thoughts around, I'm in agreement with a lot of what Commissioner Simmons said and Commissioner Ward and Mayor Post said about being the convening authority. And I'm wondering if we'd like to think of this in stages, because to me, that is one of the first steps, because I'm thinking that that is going to help inform what a potential department in the city could look like. Because once again, we're understanding what's happening, and then we are kind of filling in the gaps. So I'm wondering if that could be just, we can layer this, you know, that this is step one. Like, let's have these series of workshops. And then we can say, let's come back. I forget what the other pieces of the motion were. I think one was to come back with a framework for what the department could look like in the city, David. And then what was the last one?
It was a framework for a youth development policy, and then a framework for where in the organization we will put this responsibility to enforce.
So thank you. So when we say policy, what do we mean? A youth development policy? Like, we are going to be coming up with a policy within the city of Gainesville around youth, and so that we would absolutely need some outside.
Yes. So think of it this way. We had a data governance policy brought forward, which is meant to be a guidance for, you know, if you're handling data, metadata or whatever in the city of Gainesville, this is how you do it. And so this policy is, if you're interacting with youth, we want them to succeed and achieve development. You know, as has been said many times, it's better to send them somewhere else. It's better for them to go to another organization rather than to create something from scratch here in the city. But there needs to be someone at the city who is responsible for the discharge and making sure that that policy is being followed. So I didn't use the word department, because I think that's I think that word sometimes comes with the connotation of like massive amounts of funding and
Yes.
staff, which I don't know that we're even at the point where we know that that's what needs to be done. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. So that answers my question, and so yes, I think that after what you just said, it's important to have different stages to this. So I think the most important first stage would be the convening of the different entities, and that will also help inform stage 2 and 3, which is the policy, and also there was something else you added in there, whatever that was. But I think this is fantastic. I'm really thrilled that you brought this forward. I think that at the stage where we are with so many kind of youth-related issues in our community, yes, it is the responsibility of the school board and the children's trust, et cetera, but also I am wholeheartedly in belief that it absolutely takes a village to raise a child at this point, and all of our children. So at this point, I'm excited because this is going to be a collaborative effort. Finally, I feel like we have kind of the right people in all different spaces right now to be able to truly have a collaborative effort to uplift our children and help them succeed. So I see this being a really important first step in that. So thank you for bringing this forward, Commissioner Ariola.
Thank you, Commissioner Sacco.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Ariola, could you repeat the first point of the motion?
Staff, the general government staff, return with a draft framework of a youth development policy to support and develop all youth in Gainesville by focusing on achievement benchmarks in education, economic opportunity, and services.
So when you say, I'm running slow today, so just excuse me. When you say policy, what do you mean by that? Because I think to Commissioner Johnson's point, you need to convene before staff knows what to put in the policy.
It's okay. I'm always running slow. The idea is that a policy is on paper, right? But it doesn't achieve anything until you have resources, people, and all of the ensemble that goes into making a policy a reality. So the reason why I've chosen to go this route in presenting the policy is because we can start in a million different ways. There's a million different ways to start a new policy. And I've seen a million different ways not just on this commission, but in cities and counties around, And so what I'd like for us to do is at least to get our professional staff to bring us a first flush effort and begin to bring the community in. I don't want a final product from staff. I'm not expecting a draft proposal to be ready for a final vote. I want us to start somewhere because we hire professional staff to do this for us. But we also need to be very considerate of where we are currently. And of course, there's so many people in our community who can contribute to this and help fill out the policy. And I welcome them wholeheartedly because we're going to need it, as the commissioners have stated.
So are you looking more for an assessment as opposed to a policy? Because I think what you're asking for is an assessment of where we are and where we could go.
The reason why I've chosen the word policy is because it connotates action, follow-up, momentum, continuity. Policies are meant to be followed. They're meant to be ubiquitous. And if I use words like assessment or a report or a memo, the connotation is different. The connotation is that we've sort of done what we needed to do, and I don't want that. I want there to be a guiding light. And also, like I've continued to mention, I want this to survive beyond this city commission. I want this to be something that future commissioners can look at and continue to tune and work on the same way that we do with other policies and with other ordinances and things like that. So I chose the word policy. I think it's broad enough. I hope I answered the question.
Mostly, I'm still confused for staff's sake on what they will be bringing back. And I guess kind of I understand your expectations. I don't see how we could form a policy without talking to the public first and without talking to other groups. I know you could probably build a policy of what we've all said, what our goals are and what our strategic plan goals are for youth and for all children in our city. I think it would be without a lot of detail or action within it until we know what actions our neighbors want us to take. But that could just be me. I definitely think we just need a subcommittee prior to creating any kind of policy. But I'm in favor for the motion overall. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. So I am not in support of this motion. I won't be voting for it. First of all, I don't really know what its deliverable is. What I am comfortable moving forward with is scheduling some meetings, perhaps a joint meeting with the Children's Trust where we invite the entire community, a series of workshops with these different organizations, and again, different community representatives and leaders to get an understanding of not only what is being provided, but where the gaps are. And by the way, the city did this, 4 years ago. We did the youth summit. We came up with a gap analysis. So this is more of an update of since then, where are we? But that crucial question that we cannot move forward before it's answered is, what role does the city play in achieving these community goals? We don't know that because we haven't asked it, and it's going to take a little bit of time and effort to do it. The second reason I can't support it right now is I am unwilling to move our staff off of working on any of the items that the commission has identified as high priorities and top priorities through our strategic plan. If you ask me to move people off any of those, I think it's 7, 8 items, I'm not going to vote to do that because those to me are our highest priorities. And I'm not willing to postpone, delay, or just choose not to do any of those things before we know what it is that we're asking our staff to work towards. So, I think to go back to Commissioner Johnson's, the way you framed it is we need to do this in phases. And right now we need to be my belief is that we need to be very direct and focused on gathering information, figuring out where we fit into our community's needs, and then building those alliances and partnerships to make sure that we're maximizing our capacity and our resources along with those other community resources. And so I think if we reach beyond that, we're going to be adrift because it's just, it's not specific enough, and we don't know the answers that we need to get staff working on something that eventually may be of value. And I feel like if we work on that this fall, by the time we start getting to our strategic plan update and our budget discussions, then we know a lot more and we can give much more clear direction to our staff that will accurately reflect the community's needs and our role in those needs. So, I don't want to get out, and I'm using too many metaphors here, but I don't want to get out over our skis. I want to stay where we can keep this moving forward in a productive way without it just kind of getting lost or diverting important energy away from those other top priorities that we've already identified. So, if there's no modifications, I can't support it. I hope that I can, but we'll kind of see. And we do also still need to get out to the public and hear views on this. Commissioner Ariola, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The amendment, Commissioner Hayes Santos, if you're there, the amendment that I'd like to make to the motion is that we schedule a series of workshops centered around the youth development policy to invite the community so that we can fill it out.
And I was reminded that we do have a joint meeting scheduled already with the Children's Trust on November 4th, which seems like a long way away, but it's not that far away in times. Okay, very good. Thank you.
If I may, I'd also,
go ahead.
I'd also like to just, say I'm not insensitive to these points that were raised about focusing on our action plan and our strategic plan and what we're going to be pursuing full bore. It's part of the reason why I wanted this to be on the General Policy Committee, which for 3 years now has been a place where the committee, this commission has discussed general policy, and so that's another reason why I chose the word policy. So I certainly also desire the same results. I don't want it to go adrift, and I think that I could certainly work to be a bit more specific, but I wanted to engender broad discussion, and also for what I heard from many commissioners was to inspire other questions that I hadn't thought of, and I heard that, and I've heard that from many commissioners. So I try to tie in as much of what we've done and what I know that we're doing and what I think we can do, so that we can move forward with intention.
Yeah, excellent. Very good. I appreciate that. Excuse me. Commissioner Johnson.
Can you repeat the amendment, Commissioner Ariola?
Yes, for us to schedule a series of workshops concentrating on the youth development policy. Okay.
Love that. I'm hoping it's not just the Children's Trust, right? That's just one that we happen to have scheduled, but we will be inviting many partners. Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Saka.
And I know you had it pulled up earlier and you had it typed out. Could you show us the whole motion, please? Or repeat the whole motion?
The motion's been amended, correct? The motion's now to schedule a series of workshops with community partners to discuss a youth development policy.
So that's not an addition, that's just completely amended to this. Okay, never mind.
I'm trying to ascertain unanimous support, and so I know what my intentions are to see this through, and I'm willing to be amenable. I just young people are suffering in such a terrible way in our city, and I think to myself, I sometimes I feel pretty jaded about the state of things. And if we leave our young people, what are they going to think of the world when they're older? And I don't want to even begin to think about that. So I really just want to see this. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for the good discussion. Let's turn it over to, I think we have Willie with us today, and solicit our neighbors to offer their thoughts on this item.
Mayor, sorry to let you down. It's Larry Schooler again.
Oh, Larry. Good to have you back, Larry.
Thank you, Mayor. So we've got about 5 or 6 callers for this item, starting with Reverend Dr. Noon, who's been standing by for quite a while. Reverend.
Thank you so much. I'll just take up a moment of your time. I appreciate your meeting. I'm calling because of education should be by public radio, and we can hear, and public internet, which we can see. We do not have TV anymore. Everybody needs to be skilled and educated We also need public vocational schools, and I said public vocational schools that are for adults and children. We need to rebuild something like what we had that was closed down in '69 for whatever political reason. We had a Lincoln A&M, which was a vocational school, high school. We need that again, desperately, 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 desperately. And then the last is, I would like you to define children's trust. Does that mean buying land as for future interest? And to go back to the education, we need the people here in Alachua County, in Gainesville, to have the skills to develop whatever building and development is going on. They need to have control over continuing to have this be a sweet little college town, and not just a spot on I-75. So education, internet, and public right is most important. Public internet and housing that we can afford, because we can repair the housing through Section 8. Section 8's always repaired housing. We do not have to rebuild. We can learn to repair and replace. I mean, instead of replaced by new building, and we can keep the landscape. We can make this city a museum, and that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dmitry Podobriev is our next speaker, and we should have him. Dmitry, please go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, so I think it's a really great thing that the city is taking a closer look at youth services, and I'm totally in support of a plan or a policy for the youth. I think it's really long overdue, to be honest. The youth here, like Commissioner Ariolo was saying, the youth really do need the support from the city. So I'm glad to hear that the city is going to be scheduling these meetings and these workshops with the groups that are doing the work already. But I do hope that this isn't going to be like, we scheduled these workshops and we talked about it and that's okay. I think it should really be done with a view, a definite and committed view towards a comprehensive youth policy. So yeah, I'm totally in support of that. I would also briefly like to talk about the priorities that the city should have with the youth, because there was the issue of, defining what is youth. Like, is it just people under 25? Is it, actual children? So those people do have different needs, and that's something that would need to be assessed regarding, with regard to this policy. But when it comes to children, like people under 18, the focus on economic opportunity, I think, is a little bit wrong, because it incentivizes the city to, instead of providing services to children who don't have the same support at home that rich kids do, it encourages them to kind of just have to take their own responsibility for their own condition. And that's not something that should be put on a child. What children need is arts, education, recreation, and those things will improve their life to the point that they will be more successful in life. Poor kids don't do worse than rich kids because they just, don't have a summer job. It's because they do have that summer job and they have that pressure. So I think that the city should prioritize, education. And I understand it's not the city's job to do education, but to promote educational outcomes and to give kids, a place to go after school if they don't have somewhere to go. So, again, I'm totally in support of a youth policy. I hope that the city makes good work on it, and I hope that the city has, good priorities with it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, our next speaker is Deidre Houchin. Hope I said that right. Deidre?
Hi, this is Dr. Houchin. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm assuming that's a yes. Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm the lead author on the publication that I believe the commission is taking a look at. And I want to speak for just a moment about three things: the framework, a system-wide approach, and then the city's commission's role in that system-wide approach. So I want to first start by saying I'm not sure that we're all talking about the same thing. And Commissioner Ariola's initial motion, when he was talking about educational attainment, about employment opportunities, and creating that as goals, that's not necessarily what I'm suggesting the city's purview is with regard to youth. Instead, what the research suggests is that all municipalities have a function in preparing youth to be contributing members of the democracy by providing opportunities for positive youth development. It's a very specific framework. It essentially says that children need either 5 to 7 C's: caring, connection, competence, confidence, and that our municipalities are able to create those kinds of experiences in all of their operations to ensure that young people have the ability to contribute to the democracy as they become adults. That's different than specifically increasing educational attainment, which you're right, is the purview of the school board, but the two go hand in hand. So the first thing I want to say is that I think we need some more knowledge about this evidence-based framework called positive youth development, and also a complementary framework called prevention science to have this conversation about what does youth development look like at the city level. There are a number of national organizations that do that research and provide that information, such as the Wallace Foundation, et cetera, that you can take a look at in addition to the research brief that we provided. But prior to convening some workshops, I'd suggest that staff consult with my research team or others to get an understanding of this framework and how best to help support our youth. Now, a number of our organizations already do that here in Gainesville, but the
Mayor, that's 3
problem
minutes.
is we have an incredibly, oh, that's it?
Yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate
Okay.
it.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, just before I call the next speaker, we do have about 3 callers who joined since we began, so we'll do a quick screen at the appropriate time. Keith Lean is next on the list. Keith?
Hi, this is Keith Lean. I'm calling as I'm a Dream Defender. I'm a member in the community. I've been living here for a few years, and I did not move here for the University of Florida. But I just want to address this youth development. I'm all in favor and support of it, and I want to comment on some of the things that y'all said. I do believe that we do have the budget and the means to prioritize children and people who are the youth who are under 25. I think that's something that would need to be discussed, but a lot of people are still able to be under their parents' insurance until that age. And I think it's really important that we include people past 18 to be able to have access to these resources. And one of the things I wanted to bring up is just how are we basically going to create these metric goals, and what do y'all see as like creating equity in providing this care for the community? I really want to uplift the caller before me who talked about building confidence and really reaching children on an emotional level, and it not just being about unemployment, because the larger issues of unemployment and all of the organizations that in the community we're working on all kind of go back to the disbursement of how our funds go. And as we know, a lot of our money goes to things like GPD, when it could be going to other projects that could be developing not just our city, but creating a new society within Gainesville where there is a healthier, a unit of children and people are able to live their lives without having to depend on, not even depend, because there's nothing to depend on if we really look at it. But I also wanted to just bring up that children are autonomous, and I think we need to really recognize that when building these things, like these programs, that we're keeping their values at mind, because they know what they want for themselves, and we shouldn't be treating children and like legal children, as others, because they have the autonomy over their body. And that's something that we need to be teaching children from a very young age, that they have the potential to lead their own lives if they were given the tools to learn the art of self-preservation. And I think that's absolutely important when we are talking about what would we have to do to build this out. I think it's very important to be in touch with the community organizations that are outside of the state apparatus that aren't just the Youth Build Project, because there's so many organizations in town and small communities that are already practicing these things and are not being provided with the resources to really develop in a way where they could change their community for the better. But that's it. I'm gonna see my time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next speaker will be Nathan Scott. Nathan will be followed by Khalid Blount and then Elizabeth Townsend, and then we'll screen a couple of callers, Mayor. Nathan.
Thank you, Larry. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Nathan Scott. So I am in support of the amended motion and the workshops. I am not in support of another expansion of city government. I think comments were made from the dais or the individual desks for the commissioners about the budget and the inability to keep expanding government and being able to fund things. Again, I think the comment was also made that children are struggling. Yes, that's true, but hardworking Gainesville families are struggling under the weight placed upon them by the Gainesville City Commission that refuses to be fiscally responsible stewards of taxpayer money. And this conversation has gone on this singular issue for almost an hour and a half. I can only hope that equal time and attention will be given to the budget discussion, particularly the rollback rollback rate and property taxes, which the county commission has adopted the rollback rate, but the Gainesville City Commission is not intent on doing so, which will result in 5.25% increase in revenue because you guys can't be fiscally responsible. So for the premise to be that, you know, kids are affected, hardworking Gainesville families are affected by your decisions, commissioners, notwithstanding the fact that many people in our community are struggling to pay their excessive GRU electric bills, which is solely your purview and solely your control, except you do nothing to help relieve the financial burden on hardworking Gainesville families in our community. You place additional burdens on them. And I only hope that equal time will be given to having a candid, detailed discussion, not a superficial discussion, but a candid, detailed discussion later in this meeting about what each of you are willing to cut in terms of reducing wasteful spending in the city and reducing the budget so that you can adopt the rollback property tax rate and provide some financial relief to hardworking Gainesville families, which will allow them to have the resources to allocate towards their families rather than paying the excessive burden that you put on us. Thank you.
Next speaker is Khalid Blount, to be followed by Elizabeth Townsend, and then we'll get a couple of callers quickly screened. Khalid.
Thank you. At first, I thought the mayor's objection that this was kind of free-floating and undefined was a little pedantic, but then I realized, yeah, there does need to be a focus because there's one that's really present and urgent. So this committee work you're talking about doing, I think should, number one, it should attach to the work Commissioner Hayes Santos has been doing about universal broadband. But the current pandemic has showed us, has amplified a glaring inequality in education. And the fact that so many kids didn't have devices, didn't have internet access, aggravated an already a deep abyss. So, you know, universal broadband should now be considered like rural electrification was in the 30s and 40s as a basic need and an existential requirement for national development. So that means that much more federal disaster funding, federal pandemic funds, state and federal funds that the school board can pull down. So the Children's Trust could be co-leadership with the city on bringing together this coalition, including county commission, city commission, school board, Children's Trust, and every other group interested in education issues to push for federal and state funding for universal broadband. It is essential. We have a school system that's stumbling to start, and so many are having to roll back from in-person openings And as a nurse at Shands and seeing the numbers there, when I'm taking care of COVID patients, I predict another shutdown, if not another stay-at-home condition. So it's essential that all children have a chance to have access that is essential. And that doesn't mean sitting in a car on a parking lot or a hotspot on a bus. It means universal broadband. And that's definitely a mission that this work could and should take on, and hopefully it could speed up. Thank you.
Elizabeth Townsend is our next speaker, and then Mayor will just take a few seconds to get some callers screened. Elizabeth?
Hey, y'all. I hope you're having a great day today. I just wanted to say this is one of the most exciting things I have seen proposed recently. The idea of having youth programs that don't involve policing is really awesome, and I'm so glad to see that being proposed. I will say I was immediately disappointed to see Mayor Poe have anything to say about the fact that, you know, this isn't a priority, because I definitely think our youth are a priority. However, I do just want to say I feel like some of the supports that we're proposing here are kind of buckets under the leak, and we're not really fixing the pipes. I don't think that an increase in youth employment is necessarily going to fix problems like what another caller was saying with like youth confidence. And I don't think it's necessarily addressing the deep-rooted issues that our youth have. Because, I mean, I was someone who started working, babysitting when I was like 12, but obviously having like a real job when I was around like 15. And I don't think that necessarily built my confidence or my character. I think it kind of just solidified where I was at and what position I was in society. And I don't think that, like Dimitri was saying earlier, is necessarily a burden that we need to place on children. However, I do think that this is a really exciting opportunity for our city. And it would be a real shame to not see this go forward, especially since, you know, I'm definitely not the only person that I know who saw this and was really excited about the opportunity here. So I really hope that we'll move forward with this and take it seriously and listen to our youth about what they need in their community. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor, if y'all just stand by for a brief moment, we'll get these other callers screened and back to you. Thanks.
Sure thing.
feel like there should be some kind of entertainment offered.
Where's Ed and his jokes when you need him?
Commissioner,
Oh, don't, no, don't open the floodgates. I'll bring my cello next meeting and I'll do some interludes.
Just kidding, Ed. Just kidding.
I used to be able to play all of Bach's unaccompanied cello suites. I probably cannot anymore, but we could find out.
If you want a bad violin playing alongside, I can do that too.
I have that at home. She's trying, she's working, she's getting better.
Mayor, just getting 2 more and then we'll be with you.
Okay.
Sorry, we didn't have a tap dancer or other entertainment lined up for the interim. All right. It'll just be 1 more second, getting 1 more caller, and then we should be ready to go.
Naomi, I'm saying lean on me whenever we need this. We just need to have it ready, just like boom, button, go.
I hear you. I thought you were baby dabble.
All right. Should be ready for the next speaker, which is a gentleman named Alfredo, who is standing by to speak on youth. Whoops, having trouble with the mute there. Okay, Alfredo should be live. Alfredo?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, thanks.
Okay, awesome, thank you. I just want to say I'm calling in support of Commissioner Ariola's original motion and his overall stated goals for Gainesville's youth. I really support the idea that the city needs to step up its own role in developing and supporting youth programs, especially city programs that don't involve police. All that being said, I was also very upset to hear Mayor Poe say that it's not a top priority. I think it absolutely is a top priority. It's a priority because it touches upon a lot of aspects that the city commission has been talking about, whether it's housing, even stuff like GRU bills and policing all ties into like how we treat our most vulnerable in this town. So kind of to tie into that, I want to remind the commission that budgets are a moral document. They reflect the values of the city and of the commissions that write them. So we got to keep that in mind when we admit that these programs that are already existing are underfunded and understaffed. But you also rapidly approve over $3 million for body-worn cameras that GPD doesn't need. You know, like there's tens of millions of dollars that's going to GPD, and we're constantly talking about reallocating that money. And people are like making entire campaigns about reallocating that money. And you admit that there's these other programs that also need funding, but you're not willing to take on the quick actions you do for when the police need help. So I just want to remind you that when you're drafting these budgets and when you're talking about what the city can do and what can't it do, a lot of these are moral judgments that you're making. These affect people's actual lives at the end of the day. And also finally, on that note, I want to say I'm disgusted by the previous caller who clearly cares more about his tax bill than the human beings who actually live in his community. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Next speaker should be Marina Sachs, standing by on the line. Marina?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Marina, and I'm a member of Dream Defenders, and I've lived in Gainesville for a couple of years now. And I've been teaching in community art settings in Gainesville since I moved here. And this is an exciting conversation. You know, I'm totally in support of these proposed workshops, even though it's disappointing to hear that it's not a top priority. And I'm eager to see what information and actions come out of these workshops. I think it's critical that the City Commission pursues the development of youth programs outside of law enforcement programming. The exorbitant amount of money that gets pumped into GPD has so much potential to be reallocated into high impact youth programming. And I think the distinction between legal youth under 18 and young folks over 18 is significant, you know, like considering questions about what options do young adults 18 to 25 think they have, and what resources and programs do they have access to. the disparity between resources and employment opportunities and educational opportunities of young people across Gainesville is significant. And I think we really need to consider who has access to what depending on where they live. And there are already organizations in Gainesville that are engaging young people. So I'm excited to know that you guys are going to bring kind of an interdisciplinary approach to this. And, you know, I want to uplift what Kathleen mentioned in their comment, which is to really keep what young people are asking for central to these actions. You know, we have to meet young people where they are. And I would hope that the city and the city commission wants to amplify what young people want, as opposed to imposing a top-down structure that just kind of checks off certain boxes like employment or recreation or recidivism. Because the young people that we invest in today are going to be adults tomorrow. And it is so critical that we provide opportunities for them that don't involve police, that don't involve law enforcement, and are building on and working with the organizations that are already making this kind of programming for young people. So thank you so much for letting me comment, and I'll yield the rest of my time.
Thank you.
Next speaker, I hope I pronounce this right, is Corinne Duville, standing by to speak. And Corinne, go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you for having me speak on the line today. I hope everyone is doing very well. I just wanted to reverberate some of the sentiments that many people on the line have expressed today, because it just makes me so excited. I was so happy when I first heard about this coming up onto the agenda, because it's exciting to see us prioritizing the youth in our community in a novel framework. You know, I know many people on the line have mentioned how a lot of the youth programs that a lot of people sometimes lean into within the city of Gainesville are directly tied into policing. And I just feel like that's harmful. And I feel like all of the studies and the information that we see continue to show how bringing in more of an approach of youth development in terms of empathy, compassion, understanding, building their sense of
My apologies, Mayor. I don't know exactly what happened there, but stand by. We'll try to get the line back on. Apologies. Okay. Again, apologies for the technical difficulty there. I'm going to go back to the callers and go to Shanae Jackson. Shanae?
Hi. So I just wanted to call in when I actually got a notification that David was actually presenting this. I was super excited for a myriad of reasons. As we look, we all know that I'm one that is very major as it pertains to equity, and what are the hindrances in us actually overcoming that. I was in a meeting this morning, and one of the things that the person at the meeting actually stated, which was extremely valuable, was
Mayor, I'm sorry. We're having some unusual difficulties here, and I'll have to reestablish the line. If you all want to deliberate for a moment, you may. We have about 2-3 callers left. I'm sorry that we've had a disconnection here. Be right back.
Thanks. And if any of the 2 callers that got dropped there want to call back, we'll make sure you get you in. I want to make clear, it's been suggested that that I've said my top priority is not youth. That's not true. As a teacher of more than 20 years, the commission's priorities as established through our exhaustive strategic planning process has not included this. And so other top priorities that I think our callers and the rest of our community would be interested in are things like food desert elimination, East Gainesville incentivized development plan, exclusionary zoning policy, homeless city action plan, community broadband. Our racial equity plan is our top priority, our comprehensive city public health policy and strategy. I mean, these are big, important things that sort of rose to the top. And it's not that other things are not important. It's been part of our discussion all along that many things are important, but it's necessary for us to get these things accomplished, to focus our efforts and our resources. And I would think everyone would agree that these are all incredibly important and valuable things. And that's the only reason I mentioned that. So hopefully that clarifies those things. Larry, are we back? Not quite.
Muted. To unmute yourself, press the star key twice.
Hi, Shanae. I'm so sorry about that. We had a technical difficulty. So if you wouldn't remind,
trouble, but they're actually losing their lives. Can we hear me? Hi. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you.
Hello? Okay. So I'm not sure where my comment ended. So the point is, we're losing our youth before they even get started, whether it's to the juvenile justice system, whether it's in schools that are failing them, whether it's to death. And this is an opportunity for us to be able to fix that on a much larger scale. So working together as a collaborative and building one framework instead of everybody being on their own separate path, it increases sustainability, it increases transparency, it increases buy-in and implementation. And one of the things is, even with Boost, as it's being touted, it's competing with funds, competing with people that are in the Children's Trust that have trust funds that actually already have the backing of the community foundation. This is an opportunity, even as we're talking about priorities, to really utilize them to build proactive systems that actually empower our youth. And empowering them gives them the opportunity to even get skills, to learn advocacy, to be a part of civic engagement, but then also to be able to help close some of the gaps as it pertains to things like wage disparity. So I think, to me, the role should be not what we can't do, but to actually convene workshops, get the experts that are there involved, and look at what needs to be done, and then figure out how to build an interagency collaborative in order to get this funded.
Thank you. Larry, I think we had a couple other folks.
I think he may be still screening the couple of other callers that were on the line, so if you wouldn't mind giving us a moment.
Hey, Mayor, I apologize. We had one more caller. Let me try once more. It's Ashley Young. Ashley, if you're there.
Hi, can you
Yes.
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, hi. Thank you. My name is Ashley Young. I am a lifelong community member of Gainesville. I attended and grew up in the school system and attended a lot of after-school programming throughout the county. And I also have a background in youth work and development. And I think it's really important. First off, I'm excited that this conversation is happening, but going back to what Kathleen said earlier, I think it's really important that we include the youth in this conversation. What that does is it provides them a lot of agency and accountability to themselves and their future and ownership of that, which is vital to your own personal development. Just in regards to the job aspects of like trying to get the youth employed, I think that is kind of like meeting halfway on a really important point of finding out what the youth want to do, they're looking for their purpose. Just simply assigning them a job to keep them quote unquote busy is more of a punishment for not having resources that should be available. What we should have in place in order to fulfill this goal is to make some sort of skills training, like offer them mentorship programs, apprenticeship programs, hands-on learning where they can come in, work with what materials are available. You know, there's this whole slew of trades that are out there that offer a lot of creative enterprise, as well as ownership of skills that you can take from just a quick course out into the real world, that offer a lot of agency and independence versus just getting a job where you have to show up and then leave at the end of the day. Like, that doesn't really provide a lot of development for the youth. I have provided programming like that for youth, and I've seen the value in it. I've seen them grow radically. It's incredible to watch them come in with very little to no hard skills and walk away with so much confidence and capability after being shown that they can do something. You know, you give them a task and a goal, and you watch them create their own process through developing skills that they necessarily wouldn't get at a regular job or in our school system. And that's something that they can take with them for the rest of their lives. I really object to having Gainesville Police Department at the head of this. I think they have so much on their plate. They're not qualified to take on such an endeavor. You need folks that have background working with youth, that have these skill sets, that understand that process and what it means for a young adult, whether they're age 15 or 25, what it means to come in and work on themselves and add to their list.
Mayor, that's 3 minutes.
It's really powerful. Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
Mayor, I'm going to take one final caller for a 954 number ending in 8991. If you're there and it's on youth development, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Natalia. I just wanted to add one final comment saying that you need to divest from police-led youth programs and invest in community-led youth programs. I support prioritizing Commissioner David Ariola's youth development policy because I believe if the intentions are to support and serve our community, we can only do so by listening to and amplifying those voices and those efforts. Not divesting from police-led youth programs would be a gross misuse of funding that in turn does nothing to increase feelings of safety or confidence in our community. We need to replace meaningless temporary solutions with more community-led solutions if we ever want to get to the root of any of these social problems. So that was my comment, and thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you.
And Mayor, thanks for your patience. We are done with the callers for now.
Okay, thank you all. Thanks for everybody that participated in that conversation. Really appreciate it. And one thing I just absolutely could not agree more with is that as we go through these workshops and develop our sort of engagement and outreach strategy, including our youth at all levels, is critical to this. That absolutely needs to be first and foremost. If we're not hearing from them what their needs are, then we will quite assuredly get it wrong. So I really appreciate the caller that made that suggestion. Okay, let's go back around the horn and then we'll get to a vote. Commissioner Johnson. Can't hear you. Can't hear you, yeah. Why don't I come back to you? If you want to maybe log off and log back in. Yeah, still can't hear you. It's not showing that you're muted. Nope. So Commissioner, I'm going to go to the next hands, and then if you want to zoom out and zoom back in, maybe that will do the trick. Commissioner Sacco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So kind of your point during our break about the youth being one of our priorities, just maybe not in the way of a strategic plan and how we laid it out. There are, I think, just about every element in our strategic plan has every one of those choices that we made has some component that touches on youth services and youth, I guess, fulfillment. And it's not to say that we don't prioritize, it's just saying that there are other topics that incorporate and count youth and will benefit our youth, but it's not under the title of youth services. So our youth are being addressed just in different areas, and it's all interconnected. So I didn't want it said or misunderstood in the community by our neighbors that we don't care. We do care. It's just that those elements are being covered in other areas, such as housing, such as infrastructure, such as health. And it is being addressed somehow, just maybe not as directly head on under this subject heading. Thank you.
Very good. You put that on. I did. I appreciate that. Commissioner Ariola.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank everyone who called in. It was really humbling to hear both the passion and the intellect that went into comments and support for the youth development policy. I think that we can get somewhere concrete with meeting and bringing together more people. I don't want us to deviate from the comprehensive approach in our thinking, because I have this exact thought, which is, there's so much that we already do that has youth components, and I want us to begin to think beyond just each of those components. There is a greater sum to those parts, and that's true for our government, and that's true for our county, and that's true for our children and for our youth. They are greater than the sum of their parts, and so that is why I've chosen this approach. So thank you. I appreciate all the feedback I've received. It's greater than I could have imagined. So thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ward. Commissioner Johnson, I think we're still not hearing you, but we'll find out here.
Hear me?
Oh yeah, we can. Yay.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Ward, and then we'll get back to you, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Briefly, because we talked, since some of the commenters mentioned apprenticeships and that sort of thing, I wanted to give a plug to some of the apprenticeship programs that exist in our community, and that have space for more people. Check out the one the IBEW, the Electrical Workers Union runs. There are others that are run by organized labor. There are many at Santa Fe College. These are the sorts of things, particularly the ones that labor runs, where you can, the day you get out of high school, you can be working at a living wage and learning toward a journeyman's license that will allow you to make a very reasonable living anywhere in our nation. So if you or a family member are unsure what to do, really at any point in your working life, but especially right out of high school, check out these local apprenticeship programs that are available to you today and that have space. Please don't leave those stones unturned. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Johnson, back to you.
How's my volume? Can you all hear me okay?
You're a little low, but we can hear you.
Okay.
That's good. There you go.
Really loudly.
Yeah.
So I have a question about the summit. I'm not sure what it was called, the youth summit that we did about 4 years ago. I was thinking about some of what our neighbors were saying on the calls. What I'm hearing is that people want some deliverables. They want this workshop to be productive, or these workshops to be productive. So I want to find out from the last series of workshops that we had, what came out of those that we might not have implemented? What suggestions came out of those that we might not have implemented? Is that something, are there still things that are on the table there that we might need to go back and take a look at?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so, what came out of that was Boost.
Okay.
So we had this series of, I think, 4 summits, and it included lots of folks that sort of, and that was very narrowly focused on after and out of school activities. Okay. But then Boost kept it going after that and is continuing to work on stuff. But our Parks and Rec staff can get that to you. They have a final report, and then that could be a good starting place for the first workshop of what new has happened since then and what is still yet to be realized. But again, we're gonna have to broaden it because what we've talked about and what Commissioner Ariola has proposed is a little bit more comprehensive than just after and out of school meaningful programming. But I know in that area, there's still a lot to do just in that area as well.
I'll say from, personally is that I would love to see, and I know it takes a lot of time and attention to build a really well-designed workshop, but or a series of workshops, that's what I would like these to be, is for all of us to be prepared to do our research, for the other groups to have that same kind of intention, so that we come to the table, that we can make some actual decisions and have deliverables coming out of these workshops to then implement. It's not just a, hey, how are you? What are you doing? Even though that's valuable at first to understand that, but I would really love to see, and I'm sure all of us would love to see this, but the reason I'm saying this is because I know it's going to take some extra time to design a really good workshop. And I'm hoping that our staff can work with also some of the callers that were on before, that have done the research at UF, that have, there are groups out there that have done some of this work. Maybe they can even present at this workshop. But I think it's important that it's just very well designed and that we come out with deliverables that we can then implement. Some really good decision making. That's what I'd love to see at these workshops.
Yeah, definitely, Commissioner. And I'll work with the clerk to make sure that each workshop has a focus and that we get the right folks. Go ahead.
Oh, you mentioned focus. I just thought of something. Something that I would love to be a focus of at least one of these workshops or a portion of one of these workshops is the literacy rates of our third graders. We've decided that as a school board and a commission, and I think the community's on board. So I think this is also a wonderful opportunity to be able to begin that discussion amongst everybody that's involved in youth.
Okay, sure. And any other suggestions that folks have, just let the clerk know. But you're right, we need to, because so many of these organizations will be able to contribute greatly to the value and impact of each of those workshops. And so for us, again, I think it goes back to that role as convener. We'll get all the right people in the room. And I don't know how many of y'all have taken place in sort of workshops or other sort of interactive but intentional sessions via Zoom, but it's a really good format, to me anyway, to do that with the breakout rooms, and you can sort of switch people around, and it's recorded, and so you can really go back and figure out like every element that was suggested and how it evolved and what the outcomes were. So that's what I'm learning at Santa Fe on how to be an effective teacher. I'm teaching live in person right now, which anyway, it's difficult. It's difficult to do that for 5 hours straight with the mask on. But I'm learning how to be a virtual teacher too. And the whole point that as I was going through professional development on that is there are huge advantages to teaching that way that you can't do in person. There's disadvantages, of course, too. And so I think with these workshops, we need to think about like how can we do these to really take advantage of that format that we might not be able to get out of a huge room full of people that's really noisy and hard to hear, and we've all been in those, and it can be tough. So I'll work with the clerk, and we'll get some dates set aside, and what I'll do, Commission, is I'll bring that schedule and suggested topics and potential partners back to the Commission and put it on an agenda for us to all be able to look at and give feedback on before we. So if we're missing anybody, or if we're not heading in the direction that we all want to be heading in, meaning that our community partners and everybody, that we catch it up front. Let me work with because the clerk already texted me like, who are the partners? Let's identify. I was like, I don't want to identify all the partners today because we'll inevitably leave somebody out. So let me work with her on that. I'll bring it back to the commission, and we'll have a sort of final discussion about it, and then we'll just get to work on doing them, if that sounds reasonable. Commissioner Simmons?
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Commissioner Johnson, you brought up some great points just then. And even more now that I'm thinking about the discussion, and we've already had the youth summit prior, and the boost program came out of that. And this has been a number of years, over 5 years now. I think now, and it's totally up to you, Commissioner Ariola, that we really do look at creating this subcommittee because some of the groundwork has already been laid. And some of the concerns that Commissioner Johnson just stated, I think would be a perfect fit to start addressing those very concerns. And considering the groundwork to some of this has already been laid. Some of these workshops, if you will, youth summits we've already had, we may have to update. But I think if you create a subcommittee and address those issues that have already taken place, some of the things that came out of the youth summit, some of the things that Boost is currently working on. If you bring that to a committee, start having those conversations, flushing out some things, bringing other parties, other organizations into the fold, into the conversation. I think that would be a great springboard in helping you create this framework. So just an idea. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner, for that suggestion as well. And so, yeah, lots to digest and work on. I think most immediately we'll work on, I'm not going to put a strict number on it, but what I'm thinking is probably at least 3 workshops, maybe 4, but I'm thinking the 4th might be that joint meeting with the Children's Trust. I wish that meeting were sooner. I wish we're at the front end, but if it's at the back end of these workshops, maybe that's good too, and that we've sort of gotten further down the road and we have some specific asks of them and know a little bit more about what the needs are. So it is what it is. It's scheduled when it's scheduled, so we'll work around that. But we'll look at 3 or 4 workshops, get the topics and organizations solidified. I'll really try to do that as quickly as possible. It won't be on our next City Commission agenda because agenda review for that's tomorrow, and that's a packed agenda anyway. But maybe our next General Policy Committee meeting just right at the front end, or our second meeting in September. Okay, so that was awesome. Thank you, everybody, including our neighbors that called in and helped us along the way here. Thank you, Commissioner Ariola, for being the catalyst for this discussion. And with that, Madam Clerk, we'll move to a vote, which is to host a series of workshops on youth issues, we'll call it.
Okay, Commissioner Sacco?
Aye.
Commissioner Ward?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons?
Aye.
Commissioner Hayes Santos?
Aye.
Commissioner Ariola?
Aye.
And Mayor Poe.
All right, that motion is unanimously approved. All right, we've got a task ahead of us. Okay, Madam Clerk, up next we have youth activities. I don't know if it just sounds redundant or superfluous to me, but if we want to continue to have a discussion on this, because this is a slightly different direction, or if the commission feels good about the discussion we just had and wants to move on to transitional employment, because we still do have our budget discussion as well. So anybody have a need to discuss youth activities in addition to what we just did? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Commissioner Simmons?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. If the city manager would like to briefly describe to us what activities will be taking place for us, our after school program, will that be open for youth? If he just want to touch on that, that'll be great.
Sure, an update on after school programs and out of school programs, manager.
So just like summer camp, we're running in a condensed, or not condensed, a smaller, socially distant opportunity for our neighbor youth to participate in after school, and that registration process is open as we speak. So we'll be using our community centers, and basically they're the same programs, but just on a smaller scale.
And what about youth sports? Will the city still partake in that as well?
The youth sports, I believe, are provided by other providers, but we need to be conscious of the social distancing and the rules in terms of how many people can be gathered in a spot.
Okay. Thank you for the update, City Manager. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Sacco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Feldman, sorry to call you back. So I'm only asking because I've had more than a few neighbors ask and email and call in. Do we have an update on whether we will be able to reopen our playgrounds again? Or if we do, what that could look like?
So the biggest issue on playgrounds is the constant cleaning that would be necessitated on it. Even though, there's the current thought is that COVID is not necessarily spread as much as we thought by contact surfaces. It is still an obligation for us to keep them clean. And right now we just do not have the staff to do that, nor do we want to create a focal point for children to be on top of children as you have in playground play. We may rethink that after we see what happens with schools reopening, and if there's any sort of spread that's occurring as a result of that, that may give us some more information to base a decision on.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm wondering if there's any appetite on this commission. I'm just thinking about this right now, but we have spaces. School is starting. I know that parents are in need of supervised care for their children while they're doing either e-school or digital academy. I'm wondering if that is something that we might want to explore at our centers in addition to the time frame of after school from 2 to 6. Can we also offer that a little bit earlier so that there can be supervised children for e-academy and digital academy? I think that would be a huge, huge service to people in our community. I know it's a need. It's a need. I had to figure it out. There's at least 50% of folks that are needing to figure some of this out. What's the appetite for exploring some of that?
Right, Mr. Manager, you've been having some of those discussions, haven't you, about using our city spaces for something like this?
Well, we have the issue is what type of activities and what type of licensing we would need if we were basically providing daycare opportunities.
Is it daycare really? It's just supervised. It's supervised e-school and digital academy. That's not daycare. It's they're supervising kids doing their schoolwork.
Again, it gets into, and I'll circle back with our staff on it. But my understanding was, anytime we are entrusted with children, we're going to have to meet the Children and Family Services guidelines, and that includes licensing. So, and there's a different licensing standard for after school care than there is during the day. So I'll have to circle back with you.
If you can circle back with us about that, that would be great. It's something that the community is in need of, and a way that I think that we might be able to step in and help.
Okay, yeah. Again, I know these conversations have been going on, and that's also something that, again, I wish our meeting with Children's Trust was earlier. Maybe we could send them a request, but because of this, so the Children's Trust laid out some priorities and they directed some funding. with completely different, a completely different social situation, right? I mean, there was no hint of a pandemic, and they also were doing a very, limited budget because their board hadn't been filled out yet. So they didn't want to dedicate recurring long-term funding for things when they didn't quite know what their board was going to look like. It's not an unreasonable request to ask them to completely reconsider everything that they've decided so far, to direct all of that towards immediate needs, especially assistance with school, whether it's virtual or e-school or daycare, so parents can help their kids with e-school, because that's what we've got to get through right now, right? I mean, all those other things are great, but those were things under much different circumstances. And then, I think what we, like for our part, then we can provide the space. Like, we don't necessarily have the people that are certified to do it, but we have the space. And so then if they can get all the folks that have the licensing and all that, I think it could work. But yeah, it's a huge challenge. Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. So Commissioner Johnson, what exactly are you talking about? Because I know if you're talking about having access to the computer labs for children to do e-learning or do their homework or do their schoolwork online during the day, or are you talking about having students sign up with the after school program and partake in the program, which happens to have computers where they can get on and learn? Because I think there's two different things that we're talking about. So Can you explain to me exactly what you're talking about, and we can have staff look at both options.
I'm talking about during the school day. So from 7:45 until whatever time school ends for some folks, 1, 2 o'clock for some folks, 3 o'clock for other folks, to have a supervised person there or provide the space, whatever way that could work out for kids that it's socially distant, a pod of kids, let's say, in all of our different city spaces / city buildings. They don't even have to be just any spaces that are not used during the day. And I think that not only should we be doing this, but faith community needs to start doing some of this and, opening up their community spaces. I think that this needs to be a community-wide kind of effort. And I think that we can help in this way with our city spaces that are empty during the day and that have air conditioning and Wi-Fi. And so separate from the after school program. So essentially it being in use the entire time from 8 o'clock until 6 o'clock.
And I totally agree with you. And I had a conversation a while back with the city manager, particularly with the after school programs with our Porter's Community Center and the East Gainesville Community Center out in Cone Park, because those community centers have access to internet. They also have the curriculum from the school. And so they're underutilized during the daytime from 7 to 2. Previously there was no one in attendance, but they have staff. And so I would like to know from the city manager, have they considered allowing students to come in, like Commissioner Johnson just suggested, come in and utilize the computer labs or utilize the community centers, or do they have to be sign up to be in the after school program? How does that work? Because I know that during the daytime, the community centers are open, but no one is using them. So how can we make that work? How can we have our students go in and utilize the computer lab to do e-homework and to do their schoolwork, and maybe transition out in the afternoon when the after school kids come in? Or can we stagger? How can we look at this?
So Commissioner, I'll need to get back to you in terms of what the staffing would look like and capacity. We still have to make sure that we have, the right distancing, the right, partitions in there. I know we were set up to do it after school, and that would include continual wipe down of the equipment and limited capacity, but instead of designing the program here right now, let me get back to you.
Okay. I think you made a great point, Commissioner Johnson, not just with the after-school programs that have internet access, but you're absolutely right. Let's look at all of our city facilities that can facilitate this type of program where we can get our children in learning. Even if they bring their own equipment, we can have the building open where they can utilize it. So, City Manager, how long will this take for you to look into, or what's the?
I mean,
because school starts August 31st.
Right. So I'll talk to our staff tonight and tomorrow. So it'll take a while. I mean, if we're talking about putting other equipment in other community centers, we're going to have to, get the equipment and design the space. So I don't want to pretend to know what's going to be involved in that.
But for the community centers that currently have the equipment and have the capacity, I would like to see something fairly quickly come back and how we can accommodate the students and their parents. And we can look at other ways with the other community centers.
Yeah, so we'll get an answer back to you as quick as we can.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson, for bringing that up.
Our staff is already listening and working on it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Let's just assign that completely to Assistant City Manager Hoffman, since he announced he's leaving us and making us all sad. We'll just give him a nice giant job to finish. You can leave once you figured this out to our satisfaction. Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very briefly, perhaps this could go into the anytime we talk about expanding this sort of thing, it ends up being a resource issue, a financial resource issue. So maybe the county could become a part of this, since they're the repository of millions and millions and millions of federal dollars regarding the pandemic. I would like to see them involved in the planning for this sort of thing. And at some point, we need to be careful too that we're not replicating what's already available at school. If we put 15 kids in a room that belongs to the city, well, it starts to be the reason they're not at school in the first place. I'm not going to go down that road, but if we're going to spend resources on it, we need to bring the county in, because they have millions and millions of dollars that have been put in their hands specifically to deal with pandemic issues. Thanks.
Yeah, fair point. I think, and Commissioner Johnson, where you're thinking here is the kids are not going to school. They're doing e-school at home or Florida virtual, but the parents have work obligations, and it really, it's
that would be me.
Yeah, right. It's
been hellish trying to figure this out, and I know it's been thousands for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, thanks. Good suggestion, and I know you will, Mr. Manager, but just if you copy the commission on whatever you find out, and then what we're going to have to, what we need to know too is what we're allowed to do without having the right certified people in there or not. If that is a barrier or not. So we'll wait to hear back from you on that. And if anybody from the school system has any help with letting us know what we can and can't do during the school day, or if they can help out with staffing or anything else like that, we'd love to hear that. Okay, so let's go on to our next item, transitional employment. And does anybody from staff want to kick this off? Mr. Fulston, is that you?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys. So real quickly, myself and Morgan would jump into transitional employment presentation. Commissioner Ariola, as you can see, has a passion for young people. And the beautiful thing about it is his approach is holistic in that He just didn't want us to look at programs or a program that dealt with disadvantaged youth, but he wanted something that would look at all youth to give everybody, if you will, the opportunity to participate and be a part of. And so what we was tasked with doing is looking at different types of transitional employment programs that we could bring and possibly model ourselves after here in the city of Gainesville and utilize as a tool or another tool that you guys have been discussing this morning to be able to provide some type of assistance to young people academically, socially, in terms of mentorship and things like that. So we'll jump right into the presentation of the document. Again, for the public and for the commission, these documents are just supposed to be something to whet your appetite to have a discussion about, and that through the discussion, a direction will be given and directed. So with further ado, I want to go ahead and share our screen, and we're going to start this presentation on transitional employment. So again, thank you for this opportunity. We'll jump right into our next slide. What is transitional employment? What is a transitional employment program? So a transitional employment program are programs that are focused on helping currently unemployed or underemployed persons secure employment. These programs traditionally place individuals in temporary or entry-level positions in competitive working environments to help them gain the skills and mentorship and resources they need to secure more permanent employment in the future. Generally, these programs focus on those who are economically or socially or otherwise disadvantaged. But again, we want to look at something more comprehensive that allows all of our youth to be able to have a part in it. And so while these programs may also focus on more specific goals, such as securing youth employment and education, it is something that we are attempting to bring as an option for you guys or another tool in your toolbox to be able to provide some level of services to all our youth here in the city of Gainesville. Morgan, would you share the rest?
Yes, thank you, Zariah. So I'm Morgan Spicer. I'm one of the Policy Research Fellows. And I'll start off by talking about some existing transitional employment programs within Gainesville. So the first is the Gainesville Opportunity Center, which is a community partnership program for people whose lives have been interrupted by a major mental illness. And they offer a transitional employment program. And through this program, individuals are placed at local businesses or industries on a part-time basis and are provided with staff support throughout their temporary employment period, which generally lasts about 9 months. After this, members can opt for another placement or move on to independent employment. Participants are placed in many sectors of work, both in the community and at the Gainesville Opportunity Center itself, including clerical and reception work, food services, maintenance, and fundraising. In 2015, the City of Gainesville additionally granted Meridian Behavioral Health Care funding for its Transitional Jobs Program, which employs Meridian clients as part-time transitional workers on Meridian's campus. Those participating in the program receive on-the-job training and work about 2 to 4 hours a week to help them transition into community employment. An additional program, which isn't mentioned on this slide, is Career Source North Central Florida, which provides a range of career and education services to veterans, young adults, and other disadvantaged populations. There's also programs in Gainesville specifically designed to promote educational and employment opportunities among disadvantaged youth, which were kind of referred to in passing earlier in today's conversation. So this is primarily the Gainesville Police Department's Brave Overt Leaders of Distinction, or BOLD program, which provides assistance to young men between the ages of 16 and 24. The program provides participants with community resources and services for the intervention and prevention of criminal activity and incarceration among these individuals. The program provides participants with knowledge, skills, and financial sponsorships, and upon completion, many participants have obtained high school diplomas or GEDs, job training certificates or licenses, college degrees or certificates, or have obtained gainful employment opportunities. There are also many examples of transitional employment programs around the country. So 2 of them that we're going to be talking about today, Tallahassee's Tempo program and Washington, D.C.'s Raise DC program, are both specific to youth transitional employment. However, Chicago's Workforce Services program and Colorado's Rehire Colorado program are not specific to youth. However, they can serve as a general model that could be adapted to fit the City Commission's views. So to start out, the Tallahassee Engaged in Meaningful Productivity for Opportunity, or TEMPO program, merges violence prevention, sustainability, and economic viability efforts. When Tallahassee created their Community Resilience Plan, which is designed to help the city overcome challenges including climate change, job, food, and housing security, and poor infrastructure, the city also incorporated the TEMPO program, which seeks to educate and employ individuals aged 16 to 24 who are not employed or in school through partnerships with businesses, nonprofits, and individuals. This program is similar to a traditional jobs program in the job training and academic support it provides to participants. However, this program was created as part of Tallahassee's resiliency strategy to emphasize training and hiring individuals in the industries that will create a more sustainable Tallahassee. Once individuals graduate from the program, they are placed either in city government or with companies creating green jobs, such as working with the city's drainage system, underground utilities, or building new roads and bridges. The program also partners with CareerSource to provide participants with skills training and assistance with educational programs such as the GED. For context, the program does cost the city about $500,000 annually, and the city has traditionally spent an additional $300,000 to employ several graduates of the program themselves. However, the majority of individuals do go on to work in the private sector. In the 2 years since its founding, the program had 640 participants, and they expect to have 1,000 participants by the end of the year. The next program we'd like to discuss is Washington, D.C.'s Raise DC program, which is a community-wide collective initiative that aligns partners, data, and action to measurably improve educational achievement for Washington, D.C. children and youth from birth through age 24. The organization convenes private, public, nonprofit, and philanthropic leaders and uses data to guide practices to ensure that all children have the opportunity to succeed. The 5 major citywide goals are that every child is prepared for kindergarten, that every child graduates high school, that every youth who is not in school reconnects to education and training, that every youth attains a post-secondary credential, and that every youth is prepared for a career. This work is guided by data indicators which serve as ongoing metrics. The organization's change networks, which are working groups comprised of private industry, philanthropic partners, nonprofits, and government agencies, meet regularly to coordinate these efforts and track progress through these data indicators. There are several other examples of transitional programs which are not specific to youth, but which could serve as a model for youth-specific programs. So first is the City of Chicago's Department of Family and Support Services, which provides a transitional jobs program. The program specifically serves 3 populations: persons with criminal records, persons who are homeless or at risk of homelessness, and persons with limited English proficiency. The program uses 4 workforce training models, including employment preparation and placement, industry-specific training, subsidized work experience, and community reentry centers. Employment preparation and placement recruits clients that are underemployed and provides them with job readiness training to obtain a job, and then provides them with support through at least 180 days of employment. Industry-specific training focuses on industries that offer clear pathways to progressively higher skill and wage levels, such as hospitality, transportation, healthcare, manufacturing, and IT work. The Subsidized Work Experience program provides subsidized employment services with skills training to individuals who lack competitive work history. And finally, the Reentry Support Centers provide formerly incarcerated individuals with a central location where they can receive services and support. Next is Rehire Colorado, which is a statewide transitional employment program, which helps individuals with barriers to employment re-enter the workforce by combining wage-paid work, job skills training, and supportive services. The program connects participants with paid on-the-job training and support and information about job openings and opportunities for employment in their local communities. Participants are assigned both a local contractor and a case manager to help them identify their needs, identify employment opportunities, and transition to a permanent employment. Participants for this program are randomly selected, but must be at least 18 years old, have an income below 150% of the federal poverty level, and be unemployed or underemployed. And again, just as a reminder, these programs are not specific to youth, but could be adapted to fit those specific goals. So that is the conclusion of our presentation. I will hand it over to Zariah. I did just want to mention that Samantha Steiner is responsible for the majority of this research. She was a fellow over the summer, so I'm just here to present, but the credit lies with her and Zariah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Morgan. Samantha was with us from out of the political science department, and her time with us had ended before this item got a chance to get presented. And she was not available today. I offered her the opportunity to come back and present it today, but unfortunately she was not available. So I do want to thank her as well. Another thing I want to mention to you guys is that the approach that you guys were taking earlier in coming back with something more comprehensive with Children's Trust and these other organizations has been something that has been proven to be successful in other communities. that they've looked at a holistic approach that involves a lot of community players, because the more community players, as you guys know, that you're involved, it helps eliminate the cost and duplication of services. So that's something that we definitely wanted to mention as well. As you know, we're at this step in GPC, and so the next step, you guys have you've already done it in terms of giving some direction. So, but we wanted to just give you a little bit more, or another tool in your toolbox that you could consider in terms of providing youth services here in the community of Gainesville. Are there any questions from anyone?
Thanks. Maybe if you pull down your screen there, there we go. Thanks. And Morgan, you're so, I appreciate you sharing credit where credit's due. You could have just run away with that. You're a person of great honor. But thank you for taking on the presentation so well. So I'm just, sort of the mindset that this fits very neatly with the action we took earlier. This is one part of, and I mean, it was even embedded in Commissioner Ariola's sort of original proposal, helping with employment. And so, I think it's just makes sense to carve out one of the workshops that, kind of focuses on this space. And, in the meantime, we can get Mr. Fulston to kind of reach out to and look at some of the other community organizations that are already doing this work that have been identified. And then they, quite frankly, they're the best ones to ask who else, they all know like who's doing what work in this space. And so we can make sure not to leave anybody out of it. But yeah.
Mayor, another point.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Zariah.
The chamber is definitely a group that we want to connect with on this project as well. So they would definitely need to be at the table just to add them as well as Commissioner Ward has asked us to do some research. If you don't mind me just mentioning it, and he could chime in if he would like, to look at how we can utilize our bus services to possibly provide free ridership for these youth who want to be working through these programs, particularly those 18 and under. And I think he could share more kind of in that direction of what he may be looking for.
Yeah, well, we've had that conversation. I think Commissioner Ward, you've been very, very clear about fare free for youth, and we applied to the Children's Trust. I think several of us probably had some conversations with a couple of advocates from Gainesville for All. And what I'm optimistic about with that part of it is that they're going to help us with how we can likely submit a stronger application that includes a little bit more information that will make that award possible. So yeah, I mean, that's certainly part of it. Okay, Commissioner Ariola.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to Morgan for presenting Samantha's research, and Zariah, of course, for putting the team together. Yes, the conversation that I had with the team really sort of gave inspiration to the original conversation and proposal that I brought forward. I originally wanted to focus on employment, but then through their research, I was able to get sort of a greater appreciation for a more holistic approach. So what I would like to do, very simply, Mayor and Commissioners, is to move this research into one of the workshops that we have just scheduled, so that we can bring together the community partners to fill out the majority of this discussion. And I want to thank the team for finishing this research and for really being inspiring. Thank you.
Okay, was there a second? Second by Commissioner Simmons. Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At some point, I do want to move the bus discussion into a full research opportunity for our research folks. Not only the 18 and under fares, but 65 and over fares, and some research into what a full removal of the fare boxes would be. It's a much deeper question than it seems like on the surface, and I would like that to get fully researched instead of just being off the cuff.
Okay, it's Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. And also, in addition to what Ms. Harvey Ward said, Commissioner Ward said, I was thinking earlier as the presentation was being presented, how this also overlaps with the bus rides with the youth development and services, just the previous agenda item we were just talking about. So I think we really need to take a close look at how we can combine the youth services employment with the bus fare free ridership program. But I love the idea. Again, Commissioner Ariola, thank you for your passion in bringing this forward. I think this is going to be great for the community, and I'm in full support. So once again, job well done. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. So with that, Larry, let's go ahead and move to any of our neighbors who wish to share their thoughts about transitional employment with the commission.
Thanks, Mayor. We do have one citizen signed up. This is Reverend Dr. Noon again. Reverend?
Thank you so much. This is regarding children and adults working. If the parks that we can walk to for education can house, i.e. read and audio library, if we can have a library, okay, where we can walk to, we can have the adult children during the day doing their reading and research, and after school, these adult children, which are encircled, the libraries in a park, these adult children can teach the younger children who come there, and the ones that have homework can do the homework with the librarians. Is that clear?
Yeah.
In other words, if we could walk to parks and the parks had a library inside the park, the adult children can be in the adults and children can be in the library during the day, and after school, the librarians can work with the homework with the children, and the adult kids, you know, over 18 can work with the younger one, basketball, tennis, etc. That's it. I appreciate.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that idea.
And Mayor, that's our only call on this item.
Okay, thank you very much for calling in. Commissioner Simmons?
You know what? I don't want to bore you guys, but I'm fascinated about a youth development subcommittee. I don't know why I'm so hung up on a subcommittee, but I think this would be a great fit for a subcommittee topic. So just Ariola, just think about it.
We know when eventually that subcommittee gets formed, who two of the members will be at least. So we're ready. I'm just going to tell you, Commissioner, for me, I mean, look, you know, if three people want to get to work on it, that's fine. My preference would be we wait till we start getting some feedback from these workshops from the community where we have a more specific charge, and then, you know, there's a real focus. But, you know, if folks want to start, they can. I would just ask that we wait till maybe the next meeting to figure that out, so we have some time to ruminate on it a little bit, and because if we're going to create a committee, there needs to be a specific charge, right? And so that's, I don't know if, you know, that I think we need a little bit more time to hone, but you know.
Well, I'm ready. So
do good work on those committees. So I know you'll be productive. Commissioner Ariola.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There must be something infectious in continuing to bring up the committee. I suppose it's worth asking other commissioners who would be willing to serve on the Youth Development Committee. I know I've got one at least.
Yeah. Well, let's just put a pin in it. We're not gonna. Like we said, we need to figure out what the exact charge will be, and maybe after that, we'll, you know, as commissioners will figure out whether it's something they want to serve on or not. You know, it's committees. It's a lot of work, obviously, if you're going to be productive, and so you want people on there that have the time to put into it and are really going to add value. And I don't know if commissioners might want to figure out if that's something they can do. You know, if it's something that they have time to do. But I know I don't. With my teaching schedule. Okay, let's go ahead and move to a vote, which is to basically focus one of our workshops on this particular area. And there might be some things added onto it if they are closely enough related, but we'll at least have an idea of what the main focus will be. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Ward,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons,
Aye.
Commissioner Hayes Santos. You're muted.
I had to step out when the motion was created. Could I get a?
Sure, the motion is just to refer this item, this research, the youth development policy workshops for additional discussion.
Okay, aye.
Okay, Commissioner Ariola,
Aye.
Commissioner Sacco,
Aye.
and Mayor Poe.
All right, that motion passes unanimously. All right, Madam Clerk, on to our last item.
Last item is the budget planning meeting, and this is just a discussion to hear presentations from staff and to take action as appropriate.
Okay, Commission. So we requested that this be placed on this GPC meeting because it's really our last opportunity to give any final input before we hear our first reading of the budget resolutions and ordinances that'll be on our next City Commission agenda a week from today. So I know staff's prepared a pretty, a succinct presentation. And so let's go ahead and hear that. And then we'll come back to the commission for any questions and potential action. Mr. Feldman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. The good news is we are in a balanced budget going into the September 10th hearing. The bad news is that we had to look at shifting of revenue to get there, which is all detailed in my memorandum that I sent you about 10 days ago on there. We took some hits on some of our state shared revenues because of COVID, and sales tax primarily was down, as well as gas tax. The proposed budget still has a tax rate that is the same as fiscal year 20, and we are not asking for any fee increases to balance the budget. So with that, I'm going to let Karen Fiore take over the presentation. She and her team have been great working through our budget solutions, and I think we will be in a good place for fiscal year 21.
All right, thank you, Mr. Feldman. Ms. Fiore, welcome back.
Good afternoon, thank you. Karen Fiore, Budget Manager. During our last budget meeting where you adopted the tentative proposed budget, it was a balanced budget with revenues and expenditures totaling $138,760,329. And as Mr. Feldman has just mentioned, we had to make some revenue and expenditure adjustments. So when the state came out with their new estimates in early July, we ended up having to reduce our state revenue sharing sales tax, our half-cent sales tax, and our communication service tax. These three taxes alone equaled a reduction in our revenue by over $1.5 million. We also have increased our property tax collection rate to 96%, which gave us an additional $402,000 in revenue. We had some contractual adjustments on the revenue side. This came from the Gainesville Housing Authority contract with GPD, which gave us an additional $21,000. We were able to use some interest earnings from some of our capital funds in the amount of $154,000. We transferred it over to the general fund to fund the GPD body-worn camera contract. These total revenue adjustments totaled a reduction in revenue in the amount of $938,807. On the expenditure side, we looked at our capital projects that we were funding for fiscal year 21. We were able to identify some of those projects that have already been completed and do not require any additional funding. So we were able to reduce the transfer to those capital funds in the amount of $417,000. We eliminated the employer contribution for the retiree health. So there was a savings of $348,000 in the general fund. And we are now going to pay on 10/1 the full employer pension contribution instead of doing it. Currently, we pay this during each payroll cycle, but this will be done on 10/1, and this gave us a savings of $579,000. We had some personnel service adjustments, mostly in the GPD department. As you recall, on August 10th, the police department presented a presentation to the commission, and in that presentation, they requested to convert 10.75 temporary positions to permanent. We also identified 2 positions within the city architect and the lands rights coordinator. Those were split funded over multiple funds. We have now brought them over to the general fund to be funded 100%. And all of this movement actually resulted in a small savings of $11,000. Additional GPD operating adjustments that were presented to you on August 8th included $104,000 for the teacher's contract, $160,000 for the co-responders contract. Here is the $154,000 expenditure side for the body-worn cameras, and they had movements in their operating budget. So this totaled additional expenditures in the amount of $296,000. And we've added back the city clerk increment for the digital conversion of historical city files in the amount of $100,000. Total expenditure reduction in the amount of $959,696. These revenue adjustment and expenditure adjustments actually left the general fund with a small surplus of $20,889. During the 6/11 meeting that we had, there were some increments that the City Commission requested additional information on. On this slide, these 3 increments were actually already approved by the Commission on the 11th. The reduction of the joint aviation operating budget, so it was a savings of $114,000. We added the community paramedic resource program, which included 2 FTEs for a total of $170,000, and the aid to other organizations for $4,000. Again, these are already in the balanced budget, and these 3 items are already approved by you. It was just additional requests for information on the paramedic resource program, which you'll see in a minute. These 4 increments were the other increments that the commission requested more information on. Again, these are in your balanced proposed budget already. So the community paramedic resource program, this total increment was $170,435 and includes the addition of 2 FTEs. So that would bring the total of 4 CRP techs for this program. And this will help to expand the number of interactions that GFR will have with its clients. These positions require some operating budget. So $18,000 in reoccurring budget for printing, materials, supplies, equipment, and uniforms. And there's also $49,000 in one-time expenditures. This is for a vehicle, radio, computers, and medical equipment. Again, the total is $174,35. GFR IT operating equipment for the total of $37,100. This is operating funds needed to support the position that currently is in charge of GFR's networks, computers, radio, the station alerting equipment. This position needed some operating recurring budget for $2,600 to cover materials, supplies, uniforms, and a cell phone service, as well as one-time expenditures in the amount of $34,500 for vehicle, radio, computer, and furnishing. The climate change emission dashboard consultant for $50,000. This is a one-time request, and this supports the City Commission's recent resolution declaring climate change emergency. So Strategic Initiatives is able to actually develop the board and work with the commission on what the priorities are. However, they don't have the expertise in the science of computing, the emissions. So this consultant will help them calculate the carbon footprint. Whoops, too fast. Sorry. Senior accountant and operating, total increment amount $91,688. This includes 1 FTE and a small amount of operating. And this senior level accountant is needed to complete a comprehensive audit at the highest level. Additional funding for outside art agencies in the amount of $56,979. Currently, these organizations already receive recurring funding every year in the amount of $56,979. This will double their contribution from us for fiscal year 21. Again, this is already in balanced budget. As well as professional art producing institutions. These are our PAPI organizations. This will double their contribution for fiscal year 21 in the amount of $85,521. Any questions on those before I start? I continue? No? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we do have one question. Commissioner Johnson?
Well, I have a question about the CRP program. Is now an appropriate time to ask, or should I wait till the end?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to find out, with the 2 new FTEs, on average, how many new people can we serve?
So Commissioner, we'll have to get you on that number. I don't know offhand.
Okay, thanks.
So, someone text Ariella. I bet she does quickly. If you're watching Ariella, let us know how many more people you think we'll be able to serve with that. I have to think it's more than double because she's been operating on a shoestring sort of up till now. So to have 2 more dedicated full-time employees, it's going to be quite a bit more. But I don't want to assume too much.
Okay.
And I think you can continue.
Okay, thank you. Oh, it's very sensitive. It just wants to go right through them all. The rollback rate for fiscal year 21 is 5.0237. The current year proposed tentative millage rate remains at 5.2974. Again, there's no increase over fiscal year 20. This percent increase over the rollback rate, however, is 5.45%. This slide explains how to calculate the rollback rate and the maximum rate. And here, I'm not going to go through all the math here, but I just wanted to make a point that the rollback rate will generate $2.1 million less in revenue compared to the proposed millage rate of 5.2974. Is there a desire to go through any of this math with anyone?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And that's all I have, just a reminder of the September 10th and the September 24th for the final reading.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Fiore. You can pull your screen down if you don't mind. And so I have one question. And it's really just sort of clarifying for me where we are. I know in our strategic planning discussions, support for a central receiving facility was something that was important and I think pretty universally agreed upon by the commission. It's not in one of those top or high priorities, but I'm wondering, Mr. Manager, if it's embedded in one of those top or high priorities, because it does fit into many of those. And the reason, the commission probably knows this, but the county set aside $250,000 to go towards a central receiving facility, but it's contingent upon some things. And obviously the first one is that a matching level of participation from the city, and then also sort of fleshing out an operational plan So they're not just going to spend the money before knowing what the operational plan is to keep it, staffed and working once it's built. And we would do the same thing. I know I have a meeting with the new director, Dr. Savoy, coming up really soon. It might be next week. And I think I think the manager's in on that meeting as well, and maybe the county folks. But I guess that's a long way to get to a simple question, which is that embedded in our proposed budget, Mr. Feldman? Is it?
So I believe we had some money that was set aside as a match for the central receiving facility, should it had been funded by the legislature, and I can defer to Karen on how much money that was and where it is. But it may not have been the full 250,000.
Yeah, I don't think it was, because I think the earlier estimate was lower than that. Here's what I'm just going to say to the commission. Since the county's approved that and it looks highly likely that it's ready to move forward, I would like to authorize the city manager to spend whatever that balance is out of fund balance. It's a one-time expenditure, and that's so critical to all these other things that we're trying to do. Especially diverting folks away from arrest and allowing the community to have an option other than calling the police or using the police to deal with issues going on. So, if we don't need to decide today, but I would at least like the manager to know whether the commission supports that direction, and to take it just, since it's one time, to take it out of fund balance for that purpose. Commissioner Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. I am definitely supportive of that. And I have a few questions comments about the presentation. So one, Manager Feldman, if you can get us a list, just a memo would be fine, of the reallocation of the capital funds and how you work that out, that would be ideal. Two, I'm thrilled about the community resource paramedic program and that we are funding that more. I'd like to see more of that. Three, you've heard me say this before, but I'll say it again. I'm going to vote to pass this budget. But I'm not thrilled about having to vote for the increase in the body-worn cameras that I don't feel like we need, except for certain departments within GPD that I feel it's really pivotal to have them. And four is, I was hoping that, I talked to Manager Feldman about this before, about the vehicles. I know that we're setting aside some money both in, I think, GPD and I think GFR for some vehicles. And this is purely based on, what I see, but it feels like we have a lot of vehicles in the city that are just unused. I feel like I see them in the parking lot of the Thomas Center a lot. I feel like I see them at City Hall. And I'm wondering if there could be any creative thinking about how to consolidate some of that use. I'm sure that we're probably not using them in times of COVID as much as we have been. So just, it seems small, but it does add up. And it seems like that's a cost of close to $100,000 and maybe a little bit less. I'm wondering if there could be some creative thinking around using the current vehicles or the current fleet that we already have for some of those needs for both GFR and GPD. Do we really need new vehicles? Question.
So, Commissioner, I was giving some more thought after you and I talked about that too. So the vehicles that we were talking about that are both at City Hall and at the Thomas Center are the electric vehicles. And if we reassign them also away from being pool vehicles to a department, we would have to put the charging infrastructure in as well at the locations where those community builders are working. So one of the analysis we will be doing in fiscal year 21 on our fleet is what I call a utilization review of our fleet. So, for example, I had a conversation with Chief Jones the other day as we're looking at vehicles necessary for the community resource technicians or community service technicians. I forget what the final title is that we ended up on, but the one task that I asked him to do was take a look at the existing GPD fleet, and where we have vehicles that haven't moved, those to me are the prime ones where we can reassign. So that's been my philosophy for a while, and we'll continue to be looking at the utilization of the fleet to make sure that we just don't have vehicles that are sitting stationary, and if they are, they'll be the first candidates for reassignment. So even in these new vehicle allocation, if we have, I will tell you that we will do an analysis before we actually purchase to determine if we have available vehicles that can be deployed.
That would be fantastic. And I wonder, does it have to be within the department, or can it be interdepartmental? Like if there is another vehicle in another department that they are not using, is that possible to just switch that vehicle to a different department?
So it depends on what the funding source was for the procurement of that vehicle.
Okay.
So, for example, if we have a vehicle that was in stormwater, that was paid for by stormwater fees, the answer is no. It would have to be bought by the general fund, or building if it was paid for from building permit fees, or anything that was bought with non-general funds, we'd have to be careful of.
Bureaucracy. Thank you. Okay, thanks. That's it.
All right, thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you would like a motion regarding the central receiving facility, I'm happy to do that, but I don't know if we need one, or what's your thought?
It's probably best to put it in a motion so it's clear direction from the commission.
Okay, I move then that we direct the manager to fund the city's portion of a central receiving facility for the fund balance at his discretion.
Seconded by Hayes Santos. Mr. Feldman.
I would just ask that you don't qualify that comes from fund balance.
Okay.
I'm looking at other potential sources.
Sure.
So we'll revise the motion to take out the words fund balance.
Very good. But the intention is for the city to fund its fair share of the capital cost of the central receiving facility at Meridian. Okay. And Commissioner A. Santos still seconds. Okay. Thank you. Was there anything else, Commissioner Ward? You good? You good? Okay. Commissioner A. Santos.
I was going to talk in support of funding it, but I do want to quantify when you say our fair share. Our fair share is not 50% of this. It'll be used by counties around us, and our share should be dramatically lower in terms of what the county should fund versus us. But it needs to get but I think, it's not our fair share.
In principle, you're right, but I've actually talked with Dr. Savoy, and a very, very large percentage of the clients that go through there are city residents. And so, but that is part of the discussion. I've been making sure that point is front and center every time we do have the discussion. And the other part of this, and what I'm more concerned that we get right with funding, is the ongoing operational costs of it. I think we can help get it built because that's the priority, right? We got it. It can't help us, and it can't help our neighbors until it's there. But that it is a bigger discussion about how does it do its work as we go on. But heard, understood, and I'll make sure that I bring that up when we have that meeting with.
And to the kind of Commissioner Ward brought up earlier today, is that the county is mandated to pay for social services and stuff like that, and this falls into that category, I believe. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. Just point of reference from the city manager. How healthy is our reserve? where are we on our reserves?
So our reserves, as we talked about, and one of the items that we'll be bringing to you in September is to revise the fund balance policy to that's 16.67% on there. We're pretty close to that number now at the conclusion of fiscal year 19, and making the assumption that the county cares money that's been allocated to us, and we get a majority of our FEMA reimbursements in that will flow back to fund balance. That will help us maintain that where we're at. In addition, at your last commission meeting, you approved the pension obligation bonds, which we are anticipating to provide us several $1 million of savings in our general fund, and that money will flow through to fund balance since we have not allocated any of it for fiscal year 21, and that will significantly boost our reserves to I believe above our 16.67% and get us closer to the 20% number when we conclude fiscal year 21.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just say after, gosh, is this my 10th or 11th budget? Our reserves have never been stronger than what we're headed into now. So all credit to our finance staff and the city manager for, it's not a popular thing to do to boost up reserves. It's the right thing to do, and it's the financially prudent thing to do, but it's also, money that's not being spent on our neighbors for important things. And so, I gotta just feel really good about the support from the commission to allow the finance staff and the manager to get us there. And it's really putting the city in a strong financial position for future commissions down the road. They'll thank us tremendously for doing that hard work, or they won't. They'll just assume that's how they just assume that's how it always is, and it magically happened without any work. But thank you, Mr. Manager, for making that a priority and coming up with a plan to do it. Okay, so we have one simple motion on the floor, which is to authorize the city manager to allocate funds to provide for the capital costs of the central receiving facility. And just when we get more information on that, we'll update the commission, including, I think after this meeting I have with them, we'll probably know a lot more. And so as we get information, we'll make sure to let you all know, either at a meeting or through a memo. With that, Larry, let's go ahead and turn it over to our neighbors for them to share their thoughts on the budget with us.
Thanks very much, Mayor. We've had, I think, 4 callers for this item, one of whom I think has been with us since the beginning of the meeting. So winner of the Patience Award, Andrew Welton. Andrew, go ahead.
Hi, I'm glad to hear all of this about the budget, and thank you for letting me speak. I'm Andrew Welton. I am with Socialist Alternatives here in Gainesville, and I have some concerns about how we are allocating funding for public safety. So right now, Gainesville has been in a rent crisis for a long time, and right now this rent crisis is really acute. Something that we've been doing with Socialist Alternatives is we've been working with a lot of local residents who are facing evictions right now. And now that a lot of our legal protections preventing evictions during COVID are running out, people are being turned out on the street. And a lot of the people we speak with who have not yet been evicted are pretty sure that they're going to be, because we've lost jobs, we've lost income, and a lot of our neighbors just can't afford to pay the rent. And this has been a problem in Gainesville for some time, and COVID has made it unsustainable. We have other problems happening too. We have problems accessing food and jobs on the east side. Our education system has been strained before COVID, and it's going to be worse after the forced reopening. And we all know that this affects our Black neighbors, our LGBT neighbors, and other minorities more than it affects, rich white college professors, like some of us in this conversation. So I'm concerned that our budget priorities aren't going to allow us to meet this challenge. In particular, I would urge the city to reconsider how much we spend on our police. The use of police department here is a band-aid to solve our other unfunded programs for years. For example, we send the police to drive homeless people away when they camp on the wrong properties. Almost as though, like, if we chase away people who don't have houses, they stop existing. But of course, they continue to exist. And we're going to have a lot more people living on the streets in the next couple of months thanks to COVID. We need a new strategy for the new fiscal year. We can't just keep sending police to chase all of our evicted neighbors out of city limits. That's not consistent with our city's values, and honestly, it's just not going to work. We need to divert money from the general fund away from the police toward public housing, toward providing food security in Gainesville, and toward reducing GRU costs, which are crippling some of our poorest neighbors. If we don't do this, we're not going to be able to hide from this housing crisis. Honestly, there's nothing that our city's SWAT team will be able to do to help this. There's nothing in the police body cameras or better police cars will do to change this fact. We need to be spending more money on affordable housing. We need to be putting more money into programs that keep our neighbors fed, housed, educated, employed. We can't ask the cops to clean it up for us. Thank you. You have my time.
The next speaker we have is Eli Barrett. Eli, you have 3 minutes as well. Thanks.
All right. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
All right. I'm Eli. I'm also a socialist alternative. Andrew covered a lot of the points that I would have made. And I want to focus particularly on the
So Larry, I think we lost Eli. If we can try to get him back.
Yes, sir. We sure will. Please stand by.
Eli, if you're listening, you might need to call back in. You got dropped about 20 seconds into your comments.
Mayor, while we're waiting, I do have an answer.
Am I back?
You're back.
You are.
Excellent. I'll just start from where I was going. As I would hope most of you remember, a couple months back, there was a meeting specifically, or supposedly specifically, about issues of police accountability and how that relates to the city budget. And as far as I can tell, the result of that meeting was mostly lip service, something about body cameras, and not anything actually in the way of one, true accountability, or addressing the fact that the police budget for Gainesville is massively bloated to the fact that it causes significant financial hardship on working families here. We don't know how many people are truly unemployed in Gainesville right now. We don't know how many people are going to continue to be unemployed. And yet people are paying GRU rates that are only as high as they are because the GRU contributions to the general fund subsidize GPD at the cost of, tens of millions of dollars a year, effectively. So I think, and I'll be blunt, I don't hope to change the minds of any of the commissioners with this. I think we're a bit past that. But for other people who are listening, we really have to consider, why is it that in the months since then, there's been no attempt to cut the GPD budget significantly, to allocate funds like that? Because people will say that they don't have time, but they've had months to do that. People will say that that laws prevent certain things, that Lauren Poe was willing to break the law, to go to court with the city over plastic bags, but not over people's lives. And we can say things like, this isn't normal, but the fact of the matter is, if something like that happens in Gainesville, GPD is going to continue, the next time GPD tries to murder somebody, the city commission will keep giving them, a third of the city budget every year. And so if we want to talk about accountability, that the time for that is past. So I'm not sure what the city hopes to accomplish as far as accountability, but I think that the citizens of Gainesville need to think seriously about how we hold the city commission accountable, because it doesn't look like the current methods are working. Thank you. I yield my time.
Okay, thanks. Next speaker, please.
Brian O'Brien is our next speaker on this item. Brian?
Yes, thank you. Is the connection stable, sir?
Yes, sir, it is. I apologize for the issue before.
Okay, very good. Mr. Poe and commissioners, appreciate the opportunity to speak to this matter today. As you know, I'm quite involved in keeping track of the budgets and the spending. And I would like to offer Mr. Poe an opportunity to explain how, when the current filing with the state of Florida, the annual financial report to the Department of Financial Services in Tallahassee indicates that he has run our city $90 million further into debt in 2019. How can he sit there and spin that he has a greater reserve this year, as he has put the citizens of Gainesville in greater financial peril every year? The debt per citizen exceeds $10,000, which is unprecedented if you look around the state of Florida. And while I share actually a majority of the values of the commission to support our community with services, there has to be some limit, because the ship called Gainesville is already on the rocks and it's sinking, and the captain's still tooting the whistle like he's going to pull into port, some kind of hero. There will be a reckoning for the activities that, he has caused, this train wreck with this whole Grec tree burner mess. It's a huge burden to the taxpayers. And the time to talk about it is during budget season, not later and act like it's a big surprise. And Mr. Feldman and the commissioners are all briefed on this. So I would like them to address the problems that we already have before we launch into new programs. Two specific comments on this last item that they discussed about a central receiving facility. Please demonstrate to me some evidence that you have any expertise and track record in successful implementation of a program of that type, because I really think it's tremendous overreach by the city to get into this type of thing, that they clearly have enough problems running the basic functions. Who will operate this central receiving facility, and what will the ongoing budget be? These services that you're talking about providing are already provided to people coming into the system, which needs tremendous improvement. Our criminal justice system has been a mess for way too long. Please explain to me who will run this facility. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Mayor, the final speaker we have at the moment is Dmitry Podobreyev. Dmitry?
Hi. So I was looking over the proposed tentative budget, and one thing that I'm really disappointed to see is that right now the city is looking to increase the budget of the police by 3.7%, and that would bring it to 27% of the general fund, up 2%. It's 25% this year, and next year is going to be 27%. And it just doesn't seem to really mesh with the way that these public meetings have been going for the past couple months, because, like a previous caller had said, there was this meeting about, who do do about police accountability. And one of the biggest things that the commission keeps saying is that we don't want the police to be doing social services. And I completely agree with that. That's, I think everybody agrees with that. The police, maybe they have a role and they should do that role, and they shouldn't be doing social services. But then every single time the police come and do a presentation, they're talking about, we need or they're always talking about how much they're helping the youth and they're helping the homeless, and maybe they shouldn't be doing those things. And I'd actually really appreciate a direct response from Mayor Poe or some of the other commissioners about how these two contradictory ideas are coming together into this budget, where on the one hand, you're saying the police need to do less, and the immediate consequence of that would be to take money away from them that they're using to do these things and give it to programs which should be doing these things, like the the youth department that was being discussed earlier on in this meeting. That's a great idea, and it could be funded very well if you take a lot of the money that the police are saying we're using it, to help the youth, and put it into a youth department, or more homeless services, things like that. So I would really appreciate a direct response, if you could, about how these two contradictory ideas of the police need to do less and they also need more money to do this stuff that they're not supposed to be doing can coexist in this budget. Thank you.
Mayor, we do have one additional caller, if I may. I assume this caller is calling with regard to the budget. They've just dialed in. Manu Osorio. Manu, if you're there, just want to make sure that you've called for this item.
Hi, yes, can you hear me? I'm here to comment on the budget.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, great. I wanted to agree with some of the folks that spoke before me. I'm significantly disappointed that there is a $1 million increase on GPD's budget for the fiscal year of 2021. Like the previous speaker said, we've been attending a lot of these meetings. I'm here with Dream Defenders, and it just doesn't align with what's been said. We want accountability and we want all these things. We're giving them $1 million to make shifts within their department that aren't going to create real change for the city. Marginalized folks are still being increasingly targeted, and I don't see any changes in GPD that are significant. And they just don't need $1 million increase. We could be putting that money into a lot of other places. Or like the previous caller said, if we're in debt, why are we giving GPD $1 million? Just wanted to highlight that, and I hope that that is reflected in the actual budget that's proposed. We do not need for GPD to go from 25% of the general fund to 27%. Why don't we decrease their funding? Maybe keep it to 20%, even less. There's a lot of other things that we could be funding. Thank you.
Mayor, I should never say that was our last caller, because every time I do that, we get another one, and we do have one additional caller. This is a Gainesville number ending in 3278. If you're calling about the budget, please go ahead.
Budget that's proposed,
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, thank you. Yeah, hi. Yeah, I'm sorry for calling in so late. This is regarding the emissions dashboard, and I hope that is relevant to the budget discussion with the $50,000 expenditure. So yes, and I'm sorry, my name is Hannah Bunkin. So hopefully it is relevant, and I wanted to first express my support for the city wanting to begin the process of calculating a citywide greenhouse gas emissions inventory. I think it's a wonderful first step towards our climate goals. However, I would suggest that the emissions dashboard not be limited to city stats and should indeed be expanded to the county. With Alachua County and the city of Gainesville both working towards developing our climate action plan for the county, I think it would be relevant for the county to also be developing a greenhouse gas inventory. So I'm not really sure why the city is doing it sort of separately while the county is going to need to do it in any case. And then secondly, I would be curious as to whether the recently formed Climate Advisory Committee will be able to provide any input into the methodology chosen to calculate our emissions. I know it was recently formed, but it seems like an issue that the committee would be very well positioned to advise on. And this is because the choice of methodology when calculating our emissions is a critical one. It will vastly impact the ways in which our city understands our carbon footprint. And I just wanted to say that translating the city data into a carbon footprint is not a process void of politics and bias. The methodology matters a great deal in how we understand our footprint and our progress towards lowering it. So yeah, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to say. So I do ask that the commission respond to whether the scope of our greenhouse gas inventory can be widened to the county level, and again, to consider the utility of having the Climate Advisory Committee be included in some way in these discussions. Thank you. I yield my time.
Okay, Mayor, I'm going to do my best to keep my word this time, and that should be our last speaker.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for calling in. Two things. First of all, for anybody out there facing the threat of eviction or having difficulty paying their rent or their utility bill, please apply for the CARES money. Our county just received over $42 million from the federal government to assist with this. There is a significant amount of money for individuals as well as businesses, but a tremendous amount of money for individuals that has not been allocated. If you can show that, I think the one big thing is you've got to show that you're having trouble paying your rent or your utility bill because of COVID-19, there is assistance out there for you. So please reach out and apply for that. As far as the central receiving facility, yes, that is not going to be run by the city. We are simply helping support it and stand it up. It will be run by Meridian Behavioral Health. They have a tremendous amount of experience in this. It's really expanding what they are already doing and being able to serve more people. And this is a model that is well proven throughout the state and the country to be highly effective and helping people get aligned with the treatment they need as opposed to going to an emergency room or a jail. That's what a central receiving facility is all about. It's the third option. Instead of arresting somebody or taking them to the hospital, they can take them here to get the treatment that they need. As far as the police budget, we have reduced sworn positions, funded positions from 311 to 289 and redirected that money to civilian positions that do everything from provide youth services to mental health specialists. And it's a step. It's a step in a direction that we want to continue to go as a commission. We are going to be able to serve significantly more people. If you also layer on that the positions created through the community paramedicine program, that's all about getting resources to people in need, as opposed to having an option to arrest and nothing else. I know that there are people in our community that want significant cuts in our police department. We also heard from a significant number of people in our community that want no cuts or additional funding to our police department. And in all of those meetings we had, we heard from both. I think the deliberative action that this commission has taken is trying to provide more direct services to people where they need it and how they need it, and reducing our sort of traditional reliance on old style policing. So, with every budget, it's not going to please every member of our community. It's an iterative process where we need to eventually come to consensus amongst the 7 of us. But we did a lot of hard work into this, and I think this budget very much represents the values of most of our neighbors here in our community. So with that, I hope that's as direct answer as I can give you. But it's obviously when we're talking about over a $400 million budget on both the general government side as well as the GRU side, there's going to be things that people don't like and don't think should be in there, and there's things that aren't in there that people think should be. At the end of the day, it's a compromise to get a balanced budget passed. Okay, turning to Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to address the question about the climate dashboard. No matter how successful the climate board, the joint board with the county is, the city's going to be responsible for measuring and reporting city general government and GRU carbon usage. At the end of the day, the city is responsible for the city and the county is responsible for the county. The county, I'm sure, has some plans for doing the same sort of thing, and we can tweak and make sure that we're reporting the same sorts of things as we go. But the city will be responsible for city general government reporting and for our utility reporting, and the county will be responsible for their thing. City and the county do very different operations and are responsible for different things. So I'm, as chair of the joint water climate board, I'm looking forward to great results from our new citizen panel, which Ms. Bunkin is a member of. But I'm also even more keenly aware that the county has very different interests and will do different reporting than the city does for city general government and for our utility. Thanks.
Thank you. Manager Feldman.
Thank you. I just wanted to get back on Commissioner Johnson's question about the number of neighbors we'll be able to serve with the expanded CRP. We anticipate it'll be 100 new neighbor clients that we will be able to service.
Thank you. And how many were we serving before? It wasn't in like the 20s or the 30s?
Oh, I could have gotten that question.
I'm sorry. All in all is that we're serving a lot more neighbors than we have in the past. I'm really pleased that we have expanded that program, and I'm hoping that we can do more of that. Thanks.
Yeah, Commissioner, and those are lives permanently changed. It's not a temporary fix. It's completely changing health outcomes and social outcomes, and it's just remarkable. And I just can't thank especially
Ariel. She's great.
And Ariella Bach, who are really a dynamic duo who made that happen. And now, and they've included a bunch of help. And we need to thank UF. I mean, they were part of the original funding to get that off the ground right at the very beginning of our formal partnership. And so, it shows what we can do collaboratively as a community and think creatively. And, you all probably know this, but those folks are in high demand all across the country. These departments in cities across the country they know about what we're doing, and they're asking for help to stand up the same thing in their communities. And, that's just something that I hope our neighbors are proud of. And it doesn't matter if they are or not. In the end, we're just helping a tremendous amount of neighbors in a permanent life-altering way. All right, so thanks everybody for that discussion. We do have a motion on the floor that is based. Oh, go ahead, Lee.
25.
Okay, so quadrupling. See how I did that math there. We do have a motion on the floor to authorize city manager to allocate funds for the capital costs of standing up the central receiving facility. Madam Clerk, can you move to a vote?
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons?
Aye.
Commissioner Hayes Santos?
Aye.
Commissioner Ariola?
Aye.
Commissioner Sacco?
Aye.
Commissioner Ward?
Aye.
And Mayor Poe.
All right, that motion passes unanimously. All right, y'all, thanks a lot. We got a lot of good work done. I meant to start the meeting off with a moment of silence, and I just got excited about our work ahead of us. But if we could end the meeting with a moment of silence with two groups of people in mind. First and foremost, the community and family in Kenosha that is experiencing absolute trauma right now. Just a heartbreaking situation there, and just another reminder how much work we have to do. And as well as our brothers and sisters in Louisiana who are dealing with the aftermath and recovery of just an absolute terrible hurricane that hit them yesterday. So I'm going to take a few seconds for a moment of silence to keep all of those folks in our thoughts and our prayers, and then I will adjourn the meeting. All right. Thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned.